Doyle Redland reporting. An exhaustive 4-year, $23 million study of substance abuse and sexual habits of more than 2,500 American teens has confirmed that young people between the ages of 13 and 18 who drink and or use drugs are more likely to be sexually active. Dr. Gerald Eckersley is director of the Boston-based organization.
We found that this phenomenon also occurs among adults as well as every population everywhere in the world that has ever existed since the dawn of time.
The center has sent a teleprompter-ready press release of its findings to more than 400 local TV news affiliates across the U.S., along with stock video footage of beer displays and teens smoking and drinking at parties. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Stu.
And Riley.
And I should probably turn to Stu, but I just realized I didn't think to do like a mic check before the show.
Well, my mic has been checked, at least.
Yep.
Thanks for that, because I would have been faster, but I actually turned Riley even more up when I did that. It feels like it should be 1, 2, 3, but the mics are labeled Bonnie, Riley, Stu.
Yeah.
That's kind of a weird sort of setup.
Yeah, your mic too. I think Ian did it that way because he prefers when there's only 2 people on the show for them to sit across from him.
Yeah, that makes more sense, because then you can actually look at the person you're talking to, and I mean, I can't look at you for some reason.
I still look at you when I talk to you, so yeah, I think it still makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably why I did it like that. But
and plus, it makes for a fun debate match when Mark's sitting across the table from Ian, and Ian's Mark yells more often than Ian, and Mark is like, "You're going insane, Ian."
That's something like, he would say.
Whatever, Mark. I'm doing just fine. It's you're the one becoming unhinged.
Yeah,
I'm not unhinged.
Good episodes.
That is just so accurate. That's exactly something that I'm not unhinged. Oh
I'm completely sane, Ian. And Ian's like, no, dude, you're becoming unhinged.
Oh my god, that is 100% exactly how their conversations go. Yeah, and it does make for more of a fun show when at least people are engaging with each other. I used to feel a lot of the time like, well, Ian has got this covered, I have nothing to add, and then he would get upset with me for not saying much during the show. Now I understand that, like, being first chair, it just felt like he literally had the whole show down, and it was fine, you know?
Yeah, well, Ian loves to have a conversation partner, and it seems like he likes to debate and argue a little bit, because he and Mark have been doing a show for a long time, and he and Mark love to argue.
Yeah. It's so weird because, like, his actual personality, like, at home and stuff, he definitely doesn't, like, just love to argue or anything like that.
Yeah, he's a very quiet, laid-back, really chill man.
But I told him the other day, I was like, oh, yeah, so this happened, blah, 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 and she said that, and he said that, blah, 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 just something on Twitter that it didn't have to do with me, but it had to do with people on Twitter. And Ian was like, Twitter drama. Glad that that's not something I have to deal with in here.
Yeah, I'm sure he's really glad he doesn't deal with that drama in prison.
Yeah. They don't seem to have too much drama. But anyways, this is Free Talk Live, and
it's the Saturday Night Live edition.
Yeah, it is. You can call 603-283-6160 to get in on the conversation with us and bring up whatever's on your mind. I thought it was really cool because this is like exactly the type of thing Ian would say that is like exactly what he wants for this show. He founded the show, if you didn't know. And
a long, long time ago.
Yep, 20
Probably
years
not
ago.
in a galaxy far, far away, though.
I think 22 years ago.
Yeah.
And so on Wednesday, you, Riley, were on, and Chris, the host, was on. I think he goes by Lime Chris on the show. He did for a while. You guys were on, and you got a bunch of flat Earth callers.
Yep.
Oh, were you on too?
Yeah.
That Wednesday. Well, I found out that one of the callers that we get a lot named Kadu, he is a flat earther like YouTuber fan, and he told his favorite flat earther YouTuber about Free Talk Live, and that YouTuber got his fans to call into Free Talk Live, and then he took like all the calls and he cut them and like posted it as a video on his
Nice.
YouTube. I thought it was really good.
I thought so too. Like, you know, it's nice to have entertaining calls like that because it allows for free speech to happen. It allows for people who may not believe in flat earth theory to discuss it with people who do.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what free speech is all about. We're not here to say you're crazy and kick you off the show. We want to know why you believe the earth is flat or why you believe it's a globe.
Yeah, if you can discuss something intelligently, it's always a good conversation.
And plus, if you want to share it with your friends, you know, we don't care.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like,
We don't hold copyrights on all our content, obviously. because-
right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, Ian, a lot of people might be like, well, as long as he gives me some money for it or something like that. I don't know, maybe not money, but like some kind of credit or something. But he doesn't even care. He said if somebody started another show called Free Talk Live, whatever.
Yeah. Ian's never cared about that at all.
Yeah. So it's just, I think it's like a good use of Free Talk Live. If you wrote a book and you think people should know about your book, why not call into Free Talk Live about it? I think that kind of stuff should definitely be happening. What always gets in the way is people believe, oh, I should be being interviewed on Free Talk Live. I shouldn't just call in, and I don't know why that is.
I think people expect to be viewed as a guest, and it gives them some sort of clout or some sort of importance. But here, you're the guest, you're the caller, so you're the guest essentially. You can call in, tell us about your book, tell us about your UFO trip, or whatever you want. I don't really care.
Exactly. There's nothing lower about it.
There's nothing wrong with you just calling in and being an average caller to the show as though you were a guest, because our callers are the guests.
Yep. And Ian was talking about that, like when I first got here, like how people always want, he doesn't really like to do guests that much. He said he's down for us to do more guests while we're hosting, since if we think it's a good idea, then he'll allow it, or he doesn't like mind or anything. But it was never his thing, because it like kind of goes against the point of the show that anyone can call and just be a guest, and if you're interesting, you could talk for as long as like the conversation is held, type of thing. Well, yeah. I just thought that was really funny and cool, and also you guys were like, that was weird, like why so many flat earth calls? And I found out why, because Kadu, the caller who's the fan of the flat earther guy, he told me about it on YouTube and sent me the link, or he's told me about it on Twitter.
Yeah, those guys run in very tight circles.
Well, there aren't that many of them, so they've got to run in tight circles.
I don't know.
Tight spheres.
I think there might be more than you suspect.
Yeah, probably, but not enough to really convince me the Earth isn't the globe.
I don't really have any kind of a strong opinion, honestly. When I was in high school, I got pretty convinced that the Earth was flat, and I was the only one, and it was like almost like a joke. People are like, "Well, Bonnie thinks the Earth is flat," and stuff like that. And then even years after I graduated, somebody would be like, asking my little brother, "Does your sister really think the Earth is flat?" But I decided to look into the evidence against it, and I found Armored Skeptic. He's a YouTuber who's just skeptical of things, and he told his whole reason why he thinks that the Earth is round. And it really occurred to me that I couldn't prove him wrong or them wrong, and it's I have to accept / just believe them on a couple things that I don't know how to prove, stuff,
Sure.
including math I don't know how to do and stuff
And
like
the
that.
question is, what does it matter to you about being a good person or not? I mean, it's not going to change whether you have to be a moral person or not, whether the Earth is flat or round, or whether it's this or that. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you try and be a good person
This
every
was
day.
always my answer to that. Whenever people would say, why does it matter if the Earth is round? Which is not I was never the one being you need to listen to me about this. It was always people forcing me into debates. But anyways, they would always be why does it even matter anyway? I don't care if it was. Well, one thing is there might be some kind of technology that could be created with the if we had like that missing puzzle of knowing the earth is flat, just like things like that, not something necessarily I'm going to do, but some reason, there could be a reason that quote unquote they want to have a upper hand on us by knowing things we don't know.
First of all, who's
is.
the they you're talking about?
Well, I don't know the exact person.
Then why are you bringing them up?
That's why we use that term. It's
okay.
So obvious that people are working together to do things, and it's sometimes the government, but I don't say the government every time, because sometimes I think those people are just puppets.
I would tend to think the government are puppets too. And, someone once said that, at least someone on YouTube, I mean, probably a credible source for everything, I'm sure, said that, I forgot my train of thought. So we'll come back to that in a second.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just saying that I guess overall it really doesn't matter to me whether the earth is round or flat. It's an interesting conversation to have, but it doesn't dictate
to me, the
my
important
morality.
thing about the flat earth conversation is that it points out to people how blindly they believe what they've been told.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just give it a little bit of if you just suspend disbelief for a little bit on this one and start looking into some of the experiments that have been done, some things kind of make you go, oh, that's weird. And so whether or not the earth is flat isn't necessarily going to change a whole lot of what we do as individuals on a daily basis, agreed, but it might have huge effects on what the world does altogether. And not only that, if they were lying about such a large thing and it came to light so that we're universally known that, the world is flat and it's under a dome and the firmament is real and all of that, it was widely known to everybody.
That would pop their whole bubble.
Sure. It would create a lot of distrust in the science community too. I don't think
would let the same scientists run things. So I think it is a worthwhile thought experiment whether or not the earth is flat. And also there's something weird about Antarctica.
I also just think that I don't understand the type of people who were like, I'm willing to question this, not that. Just, I don't know. I'm willing to legitimately question anything.
I'm willing to question anything too, including science. But, I would like to look at both sides and try and give them the fair shake or whatever. I just tend to believe the earth is a globe based on the way that people who understand science have explained it to me.
Right,
so it makes more sense.
That's an appeal to the smartest people in the room, which gets you into a dangerous situation quickly.
Yeah, there's been...
That's true.
I've spent like the last couple years mostly caring more about nutrition than like, I'm reading Rothbard again, blah, blah, blah. And the amount of things that people will tell you to your face that they know it's a fact because they live in Massachusetts and teach at Harvard, blah, 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 that has just been like absolutely proven false. Like you could fill the flat earth with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, in today they will tell you, this is true. Yes, this is true. There is mountains of evidence to prove it's true. And then you like look into their mountains of evidence and it's like, oh, they changed this variable in this study just to make this look like that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's all like kind of like magic tricks. By that I mean like sleight of hand illusion.
It really is.
More than like
yeah, there's definitely
magic.
some things in science, or at least among the scientists, to not trust, like the climatology stuff going on, the climate change stuff, the climate change hoax we can't really trust. So, it's hard to take these people seriously on climate change.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to take anyone seriously who says, we're overpopulated as humans.
There's mountains of these things. They got fluoride. They got what they use to sterilize humans. So they got the whole eugenics thing. It goes on forever and ever. They started almost every war they got into, and then blamed it on someone else.
Yeah.
A huge thing that changed or made me start realizing like a lot of the science that's out there isn't as like absolutely true and provable as they like to say is the book The Secret Life of Plants. It's just basically like, I always say that the book by, what's his name, Konkin, that's called Counter Economics. It's so great because it's just example after example after example. It's just never-ending examples of this country was total insane lockdown communism, but here are all these example after example of people working around that, creating black markets anyway, and like providing for their families by breaking the rules. And it's just like, you're like, wow, that book is great because it's example after example. And The Secret Life of Plants is just like, 10 examples in this chapter, now 20 in the next, of times when somebody was a scientist and they were like, wait a second, in this field, I'm learning this and being told to teach this, but I just realized with my own experiments that the opposite is true. And then them getting like destroyed by the other scientists, like just like socially, and again with the little magic tricks where they take that person's experiment and they're like, well, we proved the opposite, but they really use like weird semantics.
That's exactly how they run it. Once the science is settled, if you can verify that it's otherwise and you say anything about it, you're gonna get your license pulled. You're gonna have all kinds of smear pieces about you in the media. It's
more like a club, like every little branch of science.
It's a cult. As you know, as you can see by the fact that they will shun you if you don't conform.
Yeah, don't wear a mask, they'll shun you. Don't take the vax, they'll shun you. Don't vote for their favorite candidate, they'll shun you. I mean, look what the left is doing to people who voted for Trump. They practically shun them. And then they blame the left for choosing hate. Then they blame the right for choosing hate when it's them who said, we're going to shun you because you voted a certain way. I mean, that is an action of hatred if you're going to shun someone for acting a certain way. So here these people are, the left, claiming that they're all virtuous because they voted for love and Kamala and change and love everybody.
Somebody said that America should have voted for her today because she is a, quote, baddie. And posted pictures of her, like, smiling, looking more attractive.
Wow. That's not a reason to vote for somebody, but okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
you. In America,
you.
that's probably a good enough qualification, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But it just seems like the party of love and tolerance has chosen to choose hatred and division and divide themselves, from their family or their friends, whatever, because of people's voting choices.
Well, this goes back to the whole controlled information thing. The textbook doesn't tell you about how the party lines flip every so often and how it used to be
they really don't.
Southern Democrats, which was the pro-slavery party, and
depending on who writes the textbooks, is going to be able to be the one telling the narrative. I mean, America has been portrayed a few different ways by textbooks as the heroic nation, or the nation that destroys everybody and is the big bully on the playground.
That's right. It all comes back to a knowledge gap that's being exploited, and the only way out of that is to not trust and verify.
Yeah, every time I'm like listening to someone, like I found a new person who like makes podcasts or something and talks about things. One good marker of like that they're probably telling the truth is when they tell you like, and you don't have to believe any of this stuff I'm telling you. You can find it here and read about it here. That's always like, oh, that's nice. I feel more like you're trustworthy when people are like that. Because I feel like the people who don't want you to do that, they'll kind of just like keep distracting you maybe with more stats and just making it seem like, yeah, I know, man. Since I know, you should just trust me. There's no way for you to know this more than me because I'm just better and smarter and I have the degree.
Yeah, anytime I come across information that I think might be somewhat credible but seems absolutely not right to me, that's why I go and research it and see what I can find on it.
It's kind of funny.
That's been programmed out of people through school. They're in a condition of learned helplessness where they need the authority at the front of the room to tell them, or the magic person in the television.
Yep. I was just thinking about this today. I think that sometimes crunchy granola moms, and I'm not saying like that's about all moms or anything before people get offended or something, but there is a specific type of person, they're like, oh, I don't put sunscreen on my kids and all this stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't put sunscreen on my kids. I'm just trying to make a picture here, but maybe that's not the way to do it. I think everybody knows what I mean by granola moms. I think sometimes they can their heart is completely in the right place and they still push society back, because instead of being like, they just saw an Instagram picture that said raw milk is good for you, it's natural, and they're like, natural, that's good, and now I believe that, and now I'm just gonna say it here, and they are completely right. And is it a net good? They're feeding their kids raw milk, that's great. But then, is it really a net good? Because then there's people who are just like one step more thinking, and they're like, well, something unbelievable, I'm not just going to believe it because it's on a pink background and the word natural is on the page. I'm going to look into it. They do like the few steps of Googling, and they're like, well, the first result on Google said it's bad. And then those people who are there to defend themselves while they're doing it, the crunchy moms, and it's not only moms, but they're a huge part of it. It's a thing. Well, they don't know how to defend it because they just believed it because it was on an Instagram picture with the word natural on it. And I was just thinking about this exact thing today. So, like, Jeremy Kauffman, he's a libertarian in New Hampshire, and his Twitter's always doing something ridiculous.
Yeah, he loves reveling in the ridiculousness and taking crazy stances on things.
And the reason I got to this whole thought process at all is because he has recently been saying that actually there's no evidence that seed oils are bad for you. Somebody tell me some evidence. And then like all the crunchy moms are on there like, I know it's bad for you because blah, 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 natural, this and that. And they don't have actual reasons. So I was one of the only people on there putting studies and things that would appeal to like a person who can't help but only think logically. Because the thing is like the hard fact information is hidden on purpose. They make it really hard to find.
Yeah.
Some of it is out there, but you have to really, really try to find it. Like be in type of circles that look into this thing and be like, oh wow, this person already did this kind of research and now I can find the studies on his website, etc. Like it's not just easy like just doing a Google search. So it's like they're like the let's say low IQ but well-meaning, and they're just going around spreading stuff and making it look dumb. Does that all make sense? So those people need to not just spread stuff because it has good vibes to them. They should go learn why something is true.
I agree. I think it's important to understand the logic behind something and the reason why you believe something. Because if you have a good if you just believe something just to believe it, then okay, you're going to believe something just to believe it. But it's also important to have a foundation on why you should believe it. Like have a logic behind it. Have a study or two, or document everything so that people can say, this is how I came. So you can show people, this is how I came to my conclusion. This is how I think you can come to my conclusion as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think studies are the be all end all. I really think like there's like balance in literally every single thing. And like some of my beliefs about, it's always like mostly nutrition to me because it's just the thing I care about right now. So, like, for example, some of the reasons I believe what I believe are just pure experience and like self-experimentation and my experience. And then some of it I can actually back up with knowing the mechanistic reason why things work and explaining it to people. And I think that is the only way to be truly intelligent. Like, you can't just rely on only logic in a world where things are purposely hidden from you, and when you just don't have all the answers because you don't have all the time in the world. Yeah. Being forced to pay taxes, spend some of your time in your day, paying for the taxes that you have to owe to the government or whatever. And I just think that, I don't know, there's a happy medium there. Thinking for yourself. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Plus, many of their gift cards are available at a discount. But what about paying your bills? Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account in case you still need those for some reason. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Hire with your Week in Review, a roundup of what's been making headlines from across the globe. This week, Ukraine marked 1,000 days since Russia's invasion, with Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Friday confirming that his army used a new experimental missile inside Ukraine. This in response to Ukraine firing American and British-supplied missiles into Russian territory. Megumi Lim's been following developments from Kyiv.
After the Thursday attack, Ukraine claimed the missile was an intercontinental ballistic missile and said investigations were being carried out to identify the weapon. The Oreshnik missile, which is an intermediate-range ballistic missile, is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, but President Putin said it was not nuclear-armed in this attack. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the use of this experimental ballistic missile by Russia amounted to a clear and severe escalation in the war and called for strong worldwide condemnation.
Also this week, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister, the country's former defense minister, as well as several Hamas officials. They're accused of crimes against humanity over the October 7th attack on Israel and the consequent war in Gaza, as William Denzelo reports.
In a unanimous decision, the ICC's three-judge panel said that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defence Chief Yoav Gallant knowingly and intentionally deprived civilians in Gaza of objects indispensable to their survival. Israel has long railed against the court, and its President Isaac Herzog calls the ruling a dark day for justice. The ICC's decision makes Netanyahu an internationally wanted suspect, but both Israel and its main ally, the US, are not among the more than 120 nations that are party to the Rome Statute.
Donald Trump won't be sentenced next week in his hush money case. The US president-elect was due to face his punishment in the coming days after being convicted of 34 felony charges back in May. But Judge Juan Merchan, who's overseeing the case, has now postponed that date indefinitely. Here's Sally Patterson.
Donald Trump's team is trying to throw out this hush money case completely. His lawyers argue the fact that he's headed back into the White House means his criminal conviction should be overturned. They also say a Supreme Court immunity ruling from earlier this year means certain evidence used in the trial should never have been heard. The prosecution argues the conviction still stands, but concedes sentencing could be delayed until after Trump serves his second term in office. Judge Juan Merchan has now paused all proceedings until he hears from both parties.
And that is your Week in Review. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. I'm Benji Hire in Washington.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash with bitrefill.com, where you can buy gift cards from big retailers including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Thanks to the Dash Dial for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Stu,
and Riley.
And we do have a caller on the line already. I'm just going to go to the phones. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
You know, it reminds me of flat earthers, sovereign citizen law interpretation, like Jay Noon, and Austrian economics.
He's not a sovereign citizen. He understands that's an oxymoron.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
We know Jay better than you do, Skeet.
Yeah, I've talked to Jay.
What's the definition of a sovereign citizen?
That's
it's the person who. What's oxymoronic?
Sovereign citizen.
You can't be sovereign and a citizen.
No,
at the same time.
you know, it's just a it's just a derogatory term for those crazy people who intentionally misinterpret the intention of what the lawmakers.
You don't know his intentions. I believe that the things that are.
I know his intentions.
No, you don't. Okay, bye.
Yeah, I do. Wait. Okay, I don't know his intentions. Sorry, Bonnie.
Obviously, you don't know someone else's intentions. That's like such a stupid statement, and we can't have a conversation if you're going to operate from that.
I'm not only here to criticize, the law interpretation of sovereign citizens, but I'm here to criticize praxeology and catalactics and Austrian economics, which is another form of flat Earth science. It's truly, and the common link between, the common link between pseudosciences. They don't use real logic and mathematics, and they hide behind pseudo-logic that is constructed to persuade
you can call anything pseudoscience that you want. There's never a scientist that comes along and says, well, you can see this is proven wrong with logic and math. They just say, that's pseudoscience, ha ha ha, in an interview and don't actually address things. Do you have something to actually address about anything we were talking about? Because none of us said, oh, flat Earth is real and we believe it and we'll debate anyone. I really don't believe or disbelieve it or care enough to look into it. Do you have something we were claiming you want to say? Here's where the math is wrong on that, Bonnie.
That's what I'm saying. It's the lack of the mathematical models that you can use to look at to make predictions and see if it's accurate or not.
What?
The lack of mathematical models, both in flat Earth sciences and
you realize that none of us said that flat Earth was real or anything like that, and that you can't draw any kind of parallel.
Analogy.
No, you're making a bad analogy as normal.
I'm just making. So I see a lot of skepticism with flat Earth sciences between at least the other two hosts, right? And you should use that same skepticism on Austrian economics.
Hosts.
The other two guys.
What about them?
They seem to be at least skeptical of
for the
flat
record,
Earth science.
I put myself at 54% likelihood that the Earth is not a globe.
Yeah,
I disagree with you.
I think the Earth is more likely to be a globe.
I think that 54% is still considered skeptical, and I feel the same way. I feel like, I'll agree with 54% because I don't really care one way or the other, but the fact that NASA and the government wants me to believe it's a globe gives me 4% towards the other direction.
That's mostly where my other 4%.
I'm just trying to help you look out what to look out for, right? The telltale sign of
because I need you to tell me that if there's something where I can verify with
and why
math,
would your opinion matter to us? What makes you special to us? Why would your opinion
look at how well it predicts? Just look how well it predicts. When you see quote unquote sciences with no mathematical models, right? Where they can hide behind poorly defined terms in regular English.
That's not the case with any of those things you're talking about.
Pseudoscience.
So you're saying that there's no mathematical models involved with flat Earth? Because I don't remember off the top of my head because it was high school, but I used to watch what's the word, like documentaries about this stuff, and people would give their reasons why, and I'm pretty sure there wasn't people who just talked based on what they observe and no math. Like there are people that did experiments and stuff. So what are you even talking about?
No, forget so like
with math
when you do experiments, you have to construct from experiments. You have to construct mathematical models that you can use to predict. For instance, like gravity, they won't have a working mathematical model to explain how gravity works and how the planetary movements are, or any body.
You're just claiming this, and I don't have any way to say yes they do, because they're not us. And that's what I was saying from the beginning. Like, if you want to argue about flat Earth, you can't come in here and say they don't have a mathematical model. we don't have any way to defend that because we're not flat earthers who sit around defending this stuff.
I'm not here to argue flat Earth,
if you have a different topic to talk about, too bad.
Yeah.
You can call in with one topic a night. No, you do this every night, and no one wants to hear three topics from you a night.
I'm trying to analogize flat Earth.
You're legitimately not doing any kind of analogy to Austrian economics. You're trying to prove something you can't prove because you're not even bringing in the actual facts of what you're saying.
Like praxeology and catalactics. I said flat Earth sciences was like Austrian economics, a sovereign citizen, law interpretation, praxeology, and catalactics, and then I was going to go
Why
into
would there
it,
be
but
a
I'm not given
mathematical
the
model
chance
to law interpretation? That's just stupid. You're just
No, I mean,
applying things that
well,
don't
no,
apply to other
I
categories.
was talking about logic and definition for law, but the math part was in context to Austrian economics, the lack of mathematical models, the fact that they strictly don't want to use math, so they can use fuzzy logic instead, like praxeology and catalactics.
Is that you can't have
gullible hippies.
Let's do talk. You've been talking the whole
You
time.
can't have large-scale models to predict what an individual is going to do, and I think that was the whole point.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can. They're already. Yes, you can.
If you could do that, you wouldn't be poor.
It's called game theory, huh?
If you could do
How
that,
do
you
know
wouldn't
I'm
be poor.
Bonnie?
Because
Would
you
you be
always say
impressed
you're
if I
poor, that
wasn't?
you never pay your mom her rent on time, and then she kicks you out. Okay, bye. You're really being annoying.
You can have models to track how most people would do things, but not every individual. And
Or
that's-
you
and that's the
can't
point of it.
account for every variable either, because someone's going to make a different choice one day and could throw your model off.
That's right. The masses of individuals will swing, due to a variable that you don't see coming.
And
like
this
Riley
is
said.
from the Google AI overview, so take that for what it is, because I'm on the radio and I don't have hours to research right now. But from what I understand, is that it says of the AI interview, it says that what you're saying, Stu, the people who came up with the School of Austrian Economics did it in a way that they didn't use mathematical models because of what you guys are saying. So it's not just like, oh, they made an incomplete hypothesis because they did everything they were supposed to do and forgot to put in the mathematical models. Like, it was on purpose. Like,
Right,
you
they
guys are
just kind of say it's pointless to chase that around because what drives things is human action, and you just gotta incentivize humans to take whatever action seems right to them as long as it's not harming others.
That sounds right to me. Like, everything isn't predictable. And I'm sure as you create people into a herd, you can make them more predictable. And that's probably why they want us all in public school and all on the same group think algorithms and stuff.
Yep, discussing the same shows at the water cooler that we caught on our television programming.
Yep. So, and it's just even with what Skeeter was saying, it's like, yes, you could predict, you could probably predict it with some accuracy, but you can't do any mathematical model that will predict human action, like you said, 100%. So, I don't know, it makes sense to have another theory looking at it a different way, to me. But either way, it's not like that's my specialty, and I have studied Austrian economics, and it's just it's so boring when somebody wants to just go do some quick Googling of things and then dunk on someone who just doesn't care about that. The main reason I think Austrian economics are more it looks like that is the right way to look at things is because I've had it explained to me before, and I said, that seems like the right way to look at things, but that doesn't mean that I'm a college professor. It's so lame. It's honestly embarrassing for him. If he really needs to make his points known, he should be writing books and getting them
he should
published.
go talk to actual economists who work for the Foundation of Economic Education. He should go talk to them, maybe call them up, maybe write them emails and
They probably
discuss
just
their
laugh him
models.
off because he's doesn't ever make sense. He's think of this analogy, and it does not hold it up at all.
No.
The idea of him sitting here preaching to us about logic is so annoying when he cannot make one analogy that makes sense to anyone.
Yeah, pseudo intellectuals like Skeeter love to waste people's time with conversations about things like economics while the rest of us are actually doing things.
That's such a good point.
Watching human action.
So, this is from The Guardian. I wanted to bring this in to talk about tonight. The FBI raids home and seizes phone of Polymarket founder. So, Ian sent me this article, and actually when Ian sent it, he said, I wonder what this guy was doing living in the United States. And so I thought it was a crypto website or something. But no, Polymarket is actually one of those websites where people were putting bets on who would win the election.
That's awesome. I love that there are websites out there and tools people you can use to bet on the outcome of an election. It makes our election feel more like it is, a bread and circus show.
Yep, I've never done that. Never been really interested in it, but it's kind of interesting. I guess most of them believed that Trump would win by the end, so I guess they were mostly right. We do have a caller on the line, though, so I'm going to go to him. We have Tony. Is that who I'm talking to?
Yes, it is. Yes. I can prove to you that the Earth is round and not flat. The reason is, if it was flat, all the cats would have pushed everything off if it wasn't stuck to the ground.
Why do cats do that? It is actually true. Cats will sit on an end of a table and knock something off.
It's just because they're jerks.
Yes, they are.
I think cats just like to make room for themselves and think they own everything.
They want to be on
that
top.
could be too. That could be too. No, I kind of agree with what you guys were saying, on the part that, the science part of it. Mm-hmm. You may believe in one part of it, and you may believe in the other part of it. Like the Earth is flat, the Earth is round, the Earth is triangle, the Earth is square, whatever. It's all belief. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is like a lot of science, like you guys talk about. You're saying the oils are bad for you. Somebody's saying they're good for you. Well, it's whatever people believe in, how I look at everything, kind of in life is what you believe. It doesn't matter if, you could be right, you could be wrong.
I think what you're describing there is, I forgot the term they call for it.
Placebo?
No, it's
confirmation bias?
It's relativism
Okay.
versus objectivism.
Are you saying that, there is an objective reality and somebody could believe something and be wrong, or are you saying that whatever you believe is actually true?
No, you can believe in something and still be wrong, but as long as you believe it, it's true to you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As in,
No,
like...
it's not, though. You're only operating as if it's true.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Correct.
But
okay, I agree with that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
because it can
I
lead
agree
you
with that.
astray. Like, say you believe something, but it's not true, and you operate as if it is. If it's actually not true, it could lead you in a bad direction or, skewed from, everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I had a person that kind of give me a question, and I'm just going to throw it out there, and you guys can, think about it or however, because to me, there's no right or wrong answer. It goes back to what your belief. Is God so powerful that he can make a rock that he can't lift?
Well, it's really hard for me to answer that, and Arya has said a similar one to me before, which is just really funny. So God is omnipotent and all-powerful, so he can do anything. Well, can he create a microwave burrito that is too hot for him to bite? Either he can't bite the microwave burrito because it's too hot, and then he's not God because he can't do everything, or he can't create a microwave burrito that's too hot for him to not eat. But the thing is, it's hard for me to personally answer because I don't think of God as just like an anthropomorphic being. I think of God as everything that is. Like, that's why truth is important to me, and I also just don't believe in subjective reality because truth is just literally the reality of everything that is, and I think that that's God.
That makes a lot more sense to me.
For me, my views on God are kind of ever-changing. Right now, the way I would answer that is I think the Creator God probably did create rocks that he can't lift. And by that I mean that he put rules on himself not disturbing his own creation. And I think that we're not the creation of the Creator God. I think we're kind of the product of some lesser being that would seem like a god to humans.
I was listening to Jordan Maxwell, and I've definitely heard about this before, but I just wanted to listen to Jordan Maxwell yesterday, and he was talking about how, well, there is the underlying essence of everything. It's basically what I was describing, like the all, and you can always call on it for help, and it cares about you, and it is personable in Jordan Maxwell's mind, and that's like real God. but the God that is written about by religions, that's basically, in his interpretation, kind of sounds like what Stu's talking about, like really intelligent beings that lived on another planet, came here and did stuff that would be like a godlike thing to do to like primitive humans. And it really does make a lot of sense, because humanity went from like, knuckle dragging Neanderthals, blah blah blah. All of a sudden we have the high tech societies of like ancient India and like Egypt and a whole bunch all at once. It really went like suddenly. We were all of a sudden civilized, and then we also like broke down immediately after. So some think that the aliens or whatever abandoned us, and that's why.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they created us and abandoned us.
I kind of believe that too. On the aliens abandoning us.
Me too.
Maybe they did. Maybe we're all abandoned here on the starship Earth.
That I agree. I mean, we could be. Don't know. But that's one of those things. It comes back to what you believe. You know?
Yeah. And the thing about that, one thing that's definitely true about it mattering what you believe or not believe when you have no way of knowing the truth is like, how do you live your life based on what you believe? Like, if I believed that aliens created our civilizations, then abandoned us, and they might come back any day and take us over again, and it's going to be really scary like Armageddon. If I believe that, and I just believe, there's no hope, and also we were put here for no reason, we were just made to be slaves by these aliens, well, I could start to be a really crappy person who's like upset and depressed and like get myself sick. But I think about that stuff, but I also think the whole thing I was saying, basically, like, there's also good in the universe that is looking out for us, and you can call on it. It's way more powerful than any other force in the universe, and that's something I choose to believe.
I choose to believe there's something more powerful than anything out there, that the most powerful form of goodness that can be, that's watching us out for us too.
Nice.
I agree. I do too.
Nice. I like that. Anything else for us, Tony?
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's 603-283-6160 if anyone would like to call in, bring up whatever is on your mind. And you could change the subject if you wanted to, but this is from theguardian.com. The FBI raided the home and seized the phone of the founder of Polymarket. So as we were saying, if you missed it at the beginning of the segment, that is one of those websites where you can vote, I think Kamala Harris is going to win, and I'm going to bet like money and make money off of it. I never heard so much about it any year except this year. I heard about it so much this year, like I forgot it was even a thing until this year. I think people were just so excited about the election that they wanted to bet on it and see if their bet was correct. Well, I guess the people who voted for Kamala are absolutely in despair right now.
Yeah, I'm excited about the prospect of internet nerd directed betting markets such as this one, because well, let's get into the story and see what they said he did wrong.
He looks like a really young guy. Showing him here, it kind of looks like a young internet nerd. This Shane Copeland guy, the founder and chief executive of Polymarket. He doesn't look like he's 40, if that's for sure. He looks younger than that. Oh, it says he's 26. He's younger than me.
Wow.
It says the FBI raided the home of the chief executive of the predictive betting site Polymarket and seized his phone late on Wednesday. Shane Copeland, the 26-year-old CEO of the company, woke up early on Wednesday morning in Manhattan to federal agents in his home. Whoa, they just no-knock raided his house? The New York Post first reported Copeland himself was not arrested. On X, formerly Twitter, Copeland wrote on Wednesday evening, "New phone, who dis?" It's funny. Polymarket claimed the raid. The FBI has stolen my phone before, and I didn't get it back. I didn't get a phone the same day, and it was like so disorienting and awful. It's like,
I can imagine,
such an awful thing that they decide they can do. If anything, if they possibly had a warrant that seemed fair at all, why can't they look at your phone and give it back to you? What are you gonna do with that exact phone that's gonna hurt them? Or they can like scan it right there, put a thing into it. I don't know. In today's day and age or whatever, your phone is really important to you. It's not, 1980.
It's become essentially our tool of survival. I mean, it's one of the tools we use to navigate the world we live in. And if you don't have a smartphone, especially, it's hard for people to want to get a hold of you or be able to get a hold of you because you don't have this digital tether to you.
I had had to go drive to the Connecticut airport, and it was only the second time I had ever been there, days after my husband got taken away from me in jail without GPS. So I just figured it out, but it was like really scary without a GPS because Mark came to come visit. We have another caller on the line. I'm going to go to them now while we have time before the next break. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hi, that must be me.
Yeah.
Hi. I heard you talking with somebody. I just tuned in. I was taking a nap. I just heard you talking with somebody talking about the future, the force, the power of the universe.
Nice.
And what I want to say about that is you manifest your own reality. Whatever you think is what your future will become. And that requires focus and determination. But if you're going to think down about yourself, you attract that to yourself. If you think good about yourself, you attract good things.
Wow, I really agree, and I really like that. I think that, like, as much as there is, like, an objective what's going on now, I absolutely believe that the future is, like, up in the air. It is a plastic substance that can shape into the mold of whatever human beings choose it to be. And I also really think it's important to consider that it's not just you, it's the collective of everybody together thinking certain things can change tomorrow, and that humans can will themselves into slavery. And if they do that, they can put the whole planet into slavery. They can also will themselves into freedom and growth. And it is really my wish that people do that instead. Had to mute the caller because we're like too many seconds close to the break to have a person on the line. But thank you so much for the call. I like that perspective and that reminder.
I think there are definitely levels of manifestation. There's personal manifestation and collective manifestation. And I just don't believe that you can collectively manifest against somebody's will or dominate somebody through your own personal manifestation either. So.
No, I don't think manifestation works without action either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think if you just say, I'm going to sit here and think...
are only going to get you so far.
You got to get up,
thing to make it
do
actually
things.
materialize.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all
live
about
as though it's happening.
There is definitely a mixture of all of that, because like if you can't even get yourself into the mindset to get yourself out of bed and do certain things, well then your actions aren't going to happen. But if you get yourself into the mindset of making the right choices and doing the right things, I think you can really change your life and your future that way. Thank you for the caller, and Free Talk Live is open for anybody to call. You can call in with whatever's on your mind, 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with your Week in Review, a roundup of what's been making headlines from across the globe. This week, Ukraine marked 1,000 days since Russia's invasion, with Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Friday confirming that his army used a new experimental missile inside Ukraine. This in response to Ukraine firing American and British-supplied missiles into Russian territory. Megumi Lim's been following developments from Kyiv.
After the Thursday attack, Ukraine claimed the missile was an intercontinental ballistic missile and said investigations were being carried out to identify the weapon. Authorities said the strike caused damages to businesses and critical infrastructure and that at least 2 people were injured. The Oreshnik missile, which is an intermediate-range ballistic missile, is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, but President Putin said it was not nuclear-armed in this attack. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the use of this experimental ballistic missile by Russia amounted to a clear and severe escalation in the war and called for strong worldwide condemnation.
Also this week, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister, the country's former defense minister, as well as several Hamas officials. They're accused of crimes against humanity over the October 7th attack on Israel and the consequent war in Gaza, as William Denzelo reports.
In a unanimous decision, the ICC's 3-judge panel said that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Chief Yoav Gallant knowingly and intentionally deprived civilians in Gaza of objects indispensable to their survival. The chamber adds that they bear criminal responsibility for the war crime of starvation as a method of warfare. Israel has long railed against the court, and its President Isaac Herzog calls the ruling a dark day for justice and turns universal justice into a universal laughingstock. The ICC's decision makes Netanyahu an internationally wanted suspect, but both Israel and its main ally the US are not among the more than 120 nations that are party to the Rome Statute.
Donald Trump won't be sentenced next week in his hush money case. The US president-elect was due to face his punishment in the coming days after being convicted of 34 felony charges back in May. But Judge Juan Merchan, who's overseeing the case, has now postponed that date indefinitely. Here's Sally Patterson.
Donald Trump's team is trying to throw out this hush money case completely. His lawyers argue the fact that he's headed back into the White House means his criminal conviction should be overturned. They also say a Supreme Court immunity ruling from earlier this year means certain evidence used in the trial should never have been heard. The prosecution argues the conviction still stands, but concedes sentencing could be delayed until after Trump serves his second term in office. Judge Juan Merchan has now paused all proceedings until he hears from both parties. That's due on the 9th of December.
Meanwhile, Trump's nominating his longtime ally Pamela Bondi as the nation's Attorney General. That pick coming after his first choice to lead the Justice Department, Matt Gaetz, withdrew his name from consideration amid multiple controversies. Ira Spitzer brings us the details.
Pamela Bondi served as Florida's Attorney General from 2011 to 2019. She's long been associated with the president-elect, serving as one of his lawyers during his first impeachment trial, and also showed up in court to support him during his hush money trial in New York earlier this year. In a social media post, Trump wrote, "Pam will refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again." Her nomination came just 6 hours after Trump's first pick, Matt Gaetz, withdrew his name from consideration as his confirmation appeared unlikely due to allegations of sexual misconduct.
And a 6th foreign tourist died of suspected methanol poisoning in Laos. Australian Holly Bowles and her friend Bianca Jones drank tainted alcohol in a backpacker town. A British woman, an American and 2 Danes also died. Laura Westbrook reports.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that 19-year-old Bianca Jones had died after being evacuated from Laos for treatment in a Thai hospital. This is every parent's worst fear and a nightmare, he said. The victims are believed to have consumed drinks tainted with methanol. This is sometimes added to mixed drinks at disreputable bars as a cheaper alternative to ethanol, but it can cause severe poisoning and death.
And that is your Week in Review. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. I'm Benji Hire in Washington.
In a deal policymakers have hailed as a decisive step towards combating the rapidly escalating national debt, the United States settled 0.12% of its debt to China this week with a single autographed photograph of John Hamm. The sale of the glossy signed headshot of the acclaimed actor, which China reportedly accepted for a financial easement of approximately $150 out of America's estimated $1.3 trillion in obligations, concludes a 6-month negotiation between the two parties.
The decision was obviously not an easy one, but without question, this was the right choice for our nation's future.
And in this week's science news, a distant planet is terrified that it might be able to someday support human life. In other news, a live cow is lowered onto the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. The majority of an office's supplies are used to apply for different jobs, and a lapsed cult member only attends sanctum on major bloodletting holidays.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. That's Free Talk Live, and the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin is a lesson that too many people have learned the hard way. It's always best to get your crypto into a wallet that you control, but not all wallets are equal. Many of our hosts have been using Edge for years to manage crypto, and there just aren't many wallets to compare. Featuring a unique login system that makes it easier for you to access your crypto from multiple devices, Edge is designed to be user-friendly. In a space that can be notoriously difficult for non-tech people, Edge is a valuable tool for novices and experts alike. You can learn more at edge.app, that's edge.app, which features a link at the top for those who wish to learn more about crypto and wallets. Thanks to Edge for sponsoring Free Talk Live, and again, to learn more, visit edge.app. With you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Stu,
and Riley.
And in the last segment, we just had started talking about this article from The Guardian. This guy is only 26 years old, and he was the CEO of Polymarket, or is it Polymarket? Yeah, Polymarket. And he woke up on Wednesday morning to in Manhattan, to federal agents in his house, and he got his phone taken away from him. So this guy, he runs Polymarket. Polymarket is one of those websites where you can go to bet on who will win the presidency. It calls itself a predictive betting site. I'm not sure what the predictive part means. Does that mean that
Yeah, they're betting on a predictive outcome like the presidency.
I guess that's what that means, yeah. So you're betting, but it's also your prediction on who will win. It's just kind of weird. Yeah. It almost seems like stating the same thing twice. That's why I was like, is there a difference between a betting site and a predictive betting site? Because when you bet on a horse, isn't it because that's your prediction who will win? Like you don't think someone else will win and you bet on someone else, right? You know?
Yeah.
What's the word? Redundant. So I was like, is there a difference? I don't know, but
I don't know either. It's just, I know they're trying to bet on a prediction, and maybe that's why they call it a predictive website.
Mm-hmm. That might be all there is to it, but I don't know. I just saw that word and thought, I don't know, is that redundant? Is there a reason for using both words? Well, it says Polymarket claimed the raid was retaliation for its users betting overwhelmingly that Donald Trump would win the election. Whoa.
I'm wondering if, this betting thing could be used as evidence that the election was stolen from Kamala.
Huh? What do you mean?
So the thought I had is that, people who support Kamala Harris could say, well, the reason why Trump won is because people were betting that he'd win, and they wanted to win big.
Whoa, you're right. That would make sense because I told you, like, I never heard more about these sites any other year than this year.
Neither have I, but here we are having a conversation about people betting on the bread and circus.
That wouldn't be a bad prediction, Riley, to think, they're going to claim, well, the election results weren't legal because people had incentives to bet on Donald Trump and then go vote. I don't know. It would kind of add up with, like, at the beginning of the show, we teased this article and I said, I knew these things existed, but like I heard more about them this year than any other year. It was like constant. They were always being talked about.
Yeah, I saw or read ads for them on X.
Oh yeah, I saw some on them for that on X for that too. I just hate saying X.
Me too. I like Twitter better. I like calling it Twitter.
That's what I think.
I'm predicting it's going to come back.
Me too.
Elon's going to have to forgo Twitter and do his social credit score app somewhere else.
He can be in charge of it if he wants. Maybe he'll just be like, you know what? I was wrong. I'm changing it back. I'm trying to do his weird accent, but no one else can. We do have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to your calls and thoughts. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, this is Rusty from Portland.
Hi, Rusty.
Hey, so Polymarket is what's called a prediction market, and the whole concept behind it is people are more likely to actually pick the right prediction when they're putting money into it.
Oh, interesting.
So it's more accurate than like a poll would be. And that's why Polymarket was accurately predicted the election, whereas the polls were showing like a 50-50 split. Like people on Polymarket knew Trump was going to win like well before the results were announced.
Interesting. So I guess that's the whole point is like put some skin in the game when you're answering the poll basically.
Yes. But they have way more than just like the presidential elections on there. People bet on all kinds of things. Like,
I'm sure they do.
Even things like what words will Trump say in his next speech? Like,
wow,
they have set up markets for all kinds of things.
That sounds kind of fun. But, not that I need to like get a gambling hobby just at home or anything, but. Is that legal for people just in the United States, any state, to go and bet money?
It's legal on certain platforms in the United States. For Polymarket, is not legal to use in the United States.
Whoa! But
they do have one called like Kaishi or something that is legal, that has a license from the CTFC that they literally had to go to court and fight to get this license before the election. So that people could bet on it.
That's interesting. That's rather insane. They had to fight for permission to do something.
Yeah, that's one question I've had, but not like actually looked into this year. When I keep hearing about these like betting markets for the election, I keep thinking like, but isn't gambling illegal in like most states?
Well, not anymore. Like online gambling's like way more legal than it used to be.
Oh, yeah.
In a lot of states.
I forgot. There are some sports ones that like my little brother has talked about recently. So I guess those became more legal.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. But one of the reasons he's in trouble, the Shane guy, is because in 2022 they had another problem and they signed an agreement to not let US users use the platform. But they're saying because people in the United States are using VPNs to access it, that's his fault somehow, even though there's not really a good way to prevent that.
Yeah, it shouldn't be his fault how someone accesses his website and uses it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, they put it in their terms of service. You can't use our website if you're in the United States. Like, they block United States IP addresses, but if people use VPNs to get around that, I don't see how that's on them.
Yeah, what the heck? That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this article will get into like what little way the government got around the obvious in order to make that part of this case against him. I don't know, but that seems like indefensible.
Yeah.
For them, not for him. Seems like, how are they going to blame that on him? Even just
I don't know. Some people think it's political retaliation because
yeah,
it was because they were predicting a Trump victory and
I don't know why that would
it
be.
came to pass.
I don't know why that would be a big deal. It was obvious Trump was going to win. There was no way, even no matter how hard they rigged it, they weren't going to be able to make people believe that Kamala won. She bombed that thing so hard.
I don't know. That's how I felt in 2020. I just felt like that it's so up in the air every single year. You never know what's going to happen, and half of that reason is because people can cheat. So,
but he's been up in the odds on Polymarket for the entire election. I don't think there's been a single point where the Democrat was above him. Maybe at the very beginning. So the Polymarket predicted it accurately for months.
I don't know.
But anyways,
about Polymarket itself because I've never been on the site. But when I first started hearing about this year, it was Chris from the Wednesday shows. He was telling me, there are these like markets you can bet on who will win, and Kamala's leading in them. And I was like, I just didn't want her to win. So I remember that being a thing, but maybe he didn't specifically mean Polymarket. And then as time went on, I kept hearing, like I never went on any of the sites, but I kept hearing, now Trump is leading. So he's like towards the closer to the election, he was definitely winning like on most of them.
Yeah. After the first debate with Biden, he was up to like 70% odds for a while.
Wow.
But yeah. But the more people that bet on an individual prediction market, the more accurate it becomes. Because, like, the more money that goes into it, the more you can trust it. Like if it's
the wisdom of the crowd.
Well, one thing I don't understand about it is like, even though I know that there are definitely tons of people using VPNs and then they're in the United States and they're using like Polymarket, well, even with that, a whole bunch of people are voting that aren't in the United States and can't vote, so I don't understand why it's so accurate, especially if, like, wouldn't most people be out of the United States in this instance?
Right, well, maybe that's why it's more accurate, because they can look at it from a different point of view from there, because they're outside our country.
Well, it'd be one thing.
I don't know.
If they were all voters and they were all... That would be, like, no different than early voting, you know? Like, if everybody was a voter, then I would
you might bet on a different candidate than you're going to vote for, because you're actually putting money up. So you might hope your candidate's going to win, but if you have to put money on it, you might put money on the other guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think you'd be more likely to put money on the one you pay for because you're
yeah.
human and you're going to think, I want us to win.
I think you'd be more likely to vote for the person you're putting money on, because then it makes sense. Then it makes sense that you're trying to influence your bet and hope it wins, hope your candidate wins, because you're putting money up, you're making an effort to see if you can get to that candidate over the top.
Well, the bet has no effect on the outcome of the election or the vote numbers, so therefore, like if you're going to go vote for Jill Stein, you're not going to go on Polymarket and put money on her, because you know she's not going to win.
Well, if you're going to vote for one of the top two people is what I was more talking about.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to vote for one of the top two people, I feel like the human reaction would be, I'm going to vote for the person I put my money on. And the other thing I'm saying is, like, well, if, like, 90% of these people voting on Polymarket were in France, why is it so accurate? Because I really don't think that they could possibly just know more about who was going to win, then an American could. This is what I kept thinking whenever I kept hearing, oh, there are these things where people can vote on the election. I just thought of that as basically like early voting, and I was like, oh my God, Kamala's winning when I first heard about it, but it didn't occur to me at the time that Americans might not be allowed to use those sites because of like gambling laws.
It's just the power of markets. Like when the Challenger explosion happened in the 1980s, right? There was 5 publicly listed companies that all had parts on that space shuttle. And within a half an hour, the price company that had the part that was faulty went down more than any other company.
Oh, wow.
And it took the government 6 months to figure out what had happened. It took the stock market 30 minutes.
Interesting.
How did they figure it out?
That's the thing. It's the wisdom of the crowds. It's like a phenomenon that's very interesting, but I don't understand it.
That's interesting. That's something to look into. Anything else for us, Rusty?
No, that's it. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. The number is 603-283-6160 if you'd like to get in on the conversation. I want to learn more about like what are the reasons they're actually giving for arresting him. Of course, it says here that Polymarket claimed the raid was in retaliation for its users betting overwhelmingly that Donald Trump would win the election. And honestly, it doesn't seem that far-fetched to me considering the way that the FBI has behaved this whole time under Biden. Doesn't really surprise me. They went after Donald Trump himself.
I think it does have an effect on the outcome in the same way that they use the polls to affect the outcome of the election, where they'll tell you who's leading all the way up to the thing. If they're just lying and saying one candidate's ahead when that's not actually the case, it can have an effect on the way people think it's going to go, and then it affects the way they act.
There are literally, at like the lowest level, there are literally people that would have no principles and would be like, I'm going to vote for the one that's going to win. You always hear that with primaries where it's like, you want a certain, you're just voting within Republicans. Let's say you're a Republican. And yeah, I really like Ron Paul, but he's not going to win, so I'm going to go with Trump. And it's like, why don't you vote for the one you want to win, though?
Yeah, then
it's crazy.
They're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy when they say, oh, well, I want Ron Paul, but I know he's not going to win. Well, the reason why he's not going to win is because you're not voting for him and you're not making an effort to make sure that you're voting for him.
And I don't mean people that are like so freaking far off, like Chase Oliver. I think it's so dumb that people try to make the excuse like, Bonnie, don't vote for Trump when he could free Ross because Chase Oliver could free Ross. And I'd say, well, he's not going to win. And they'd say, that's because you're not voting him for. No, like hundreds of thousands more people would have to have him vote for him.
Yeah, Chase Oliver was not a popular libertarian candidate, and I know why. He was very contradictory on vaccines and masks.
The most popular libertarian candidate, I think, was Gary Johnson, right? And he didn't get 5%.
Yeah, third party hasn't been viable since forever ago.
Yeah, I mean,
way before
the Republicans and Democrats really screwed the American people over when they stopped inviting third-party candidates onto the debate stage.
Oh yeah, I think that the debates are a huge thing because people would be like, probably like, whoa, I've never heard these ideas if they had even Chase Oliver on a debate stage with, like the day that we have Biden and Trump debating.
Or certainly would force the establishment candidates to just shift their rhetoric a little bit.
Have more things to say than just little snippets, soundbite. Talking back and forth, talking at each other. Yeah, and that would be really cool. It was, I wasn't around for it. Well, I was alive, but I wasn't like paying attention to politics whenever Ron Paul was in debates, but I've seen videos of it since, and it's just like, whoa, I can't believe he said that kind of things. It's like, that never happens in debates, where he's actually like making serious points and not just saying dumb little snippets here and there that pull on people's heartstrings here and attack the other candidate there. It's so unproductive.
Yeah, it's usually just a popularity contest, and guys like Ron Paul have something to actually say.
Yep. So I think I would have to agree that the polls could like psychologically affect people. Like I said, the lowest level would be people who are just like voting for the one they think is going to win in general, whether they have money in on the website or not, just because they want to vote for the winner. Then there's also people being like, oh, Kamala is ahead by 70% in these like online polls. Well, no point in me even leaving the house tomorrow to vote because like I was going to vote for Trump, but now I'm not going to because Kamala's going to win. So that could influence things.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I could see them possibly having went and raided the CEO's house over retaliation for the fact that a large majority of, and like it says, they overwhelmingly voted that Donald Trump would win the election. It says the site displayed a large chance of Trump winning the election, giving Kamala Harris a minimal one, out of line with most mainstream polls, which Trump was saying on the Joe Rogan podcast that he was like, I don't even believe in polls. Like, polls are never right, and
they manipulate them on purpose. So they
do.
Like the outcome.
It really seems like it. And like my whole life, it feels like they've always been off. Like the person that was supposed to win always loses. Might as well look at the polls leading right up to election and just pick the opposite and you know who's going to win. That's what it seems like. Copland, the 26-year-old CEO, said, "It's discouraging that the current administration would seek a last-ditch effort to go after companies they deem to be associated with political opponents. We are deeply committed to being nonpartisan, and today is no different, but the incumbents should do some self-reflecting and recognize that taking a more pro-business, pro-startup approach may be what would have changed their fate this election." The Department of Justice is investigating Polymarket for allegedly allowing U.S.-based users to bet on the site. Bloomberg News reported on Wednesday evening. So it sounds like exactly what Rusty is saying, that they're getting in trouble for U.S. users using their site when they're not allowed to, even though, Polymarket isn't letting them. People are using VPNs.
Yeah, it's easy enough to access anything you want if you use a VPN.
It says Polymarket users can place bets on the outcome of yes or no questions that range widely in subject. Fortune is how you say it? The
Fortune.
Oh, Fortune reported the week before the election that the site was rife with wash trading, an illegal type of market manipulation. It says Polymarket told the media outlets, "This is obvious political retribution by the outgoing administration against Polymarket for providing a market that correctly called the 2024 presidential election. Polymarket is fully transparent prediction market that helps everyday people better understand the events that matter most to them, including elections." Making bets and predictions on Polymarket is not allowed in the U.S., though users can go and circumvent the prohibition via virtual private networks, VPNs. A week ago, the company announced it would resume operations in the U.S. The company had paid a $1.4 million fine to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission in 2022 for failing to register with the agency as required, and was forced to pause trading at the same time. The FBI did not immediately respond to a request for comment. I wonder if when they said a week ago the company announced it would resume operations in the U.S., well, does that mean that they were just saying we'll let people from the U.S. vote on our market, or were they just like in the U.S. starting the process?
Sounds like they
of
were
something?
operating in the U.S. and not serving U.S. customers.
Yeah, that could be a thing they were doing. So I don't understand. Like that needed more information there. It just kind of randomly said the company announced it would resume operations in the U.S. So that kind of, I don't know, confused me there for a second. Like, I don't think that.
And the part about failing to register, I wonder if that's the same story they do all the time, where they these guys probably went down to the office and asked, "How do I register?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't have anything for that." And then later they come after them and they're like, "Oh, you didn't register and now you're in trouble."
That's a tactic.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, he was targeted the same way.
Yeah, Ian, that's exactly the same thing.
I think there's a larger reason they're scared of these types of prediction markets that we can get into.
603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up. Bring up whatever is on your mind. It's Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. forkfest.party.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with your Week in Review, a roundup of what's been making headlines from across the globe. This week, Ukraine marked 1,000 days since Russia's invasion, with Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Friday confirming that his army used a new experimental missile inside Ukraine. This in response to Ukraine firing American and British-supplied missiles into Russian territory. Megumi Lim has been following developments from Kyiv.
After the Thursday attack, Ukraine claimed the missile was an intercontinental ballistic missile and said investigations were being carried out to identify the weapon. The Oreshnik missile, which is an intermediate-range ballistic missile, is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, but President Putin said it was not nuclear-armed in this attack. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the use of this experimental ballistic missile by Russia amounted to a clear and severe escalation in the war and called for strong worldwide condemnation.
Also this week, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister, the country's former defense minister, as well as several Hamas officials. They're accused of crimes against humanity over the October 7th attack on Israel and the consequent war in Gaza, as William Denzelo reports.
In a unanimous decision, the ICC's three-judge panel said that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Chief Yoav Gallant knowingly and intentionally deprived civilians in Gaza of objects indispensable to their survival. Israel has long railed against the court, and its President Isaac Herzog calls the ruling a dark day for justice. The ICC's decision makes Netanyahu an internationally wanted suspect, but both Israel and its main ally, the US, are not among the more than 120 nations that are party to the Rome Statute.
Donald Trump won't be sentenced next week in his hush money case. The US president-elect was due to face his punishment in the coming days after being convicted of 34 felony charges back in May. But Judge Juan Merchan, who's overseeing the case, has now postponed that date indefinitely. Here's Sally Patterson.
Donald Trump's team is trying to throw out this hush money case completely. His lawyers argue the fact that he's headed back into the White House means his criminal conviction should be overturned. They also say a Supreme Court immunity ruling from earlier this year means certain evidence used in the trial should never have been heard. The prosecution argues the conviction still stands, but concedes sentencing could be delayed until after Trump serves his second term in office. Judge Juan Merchan has now paused all proceedings until he hears from both parties.
And that is your Week in Review. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. I'm Benji Haya in Washington.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And we've been podcasting since podcasts began, but we're launching a new podcast anyway. Our new podcast is a 30 to 45 minute show releasing once a week, and you can find it at freetalkcast.com. It's brought to you by the same people who bring you Free Talk Live, and we'd love for you to check it out. The existing radio archive isn't going anywhere. This is just a news show designed from the start to be a podcast, so check it out at freetalkcast.com. With you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Stu.
And Riley.
And you were saying in the last segment, Stu, that you had another maybe like theory as to why the FBI might have raided the founder and CEO of Polymarket, which is a predictive betting website where people can bet on things such as the presidential election. And it seems kind of random because their official reasoning was, well, because U.S. users were using the site when they weren't allowed to. But why would that be Polymarket's fault, considering, you know, that they have it in their policy, U.S. users, you're not allowed to use this. And if people use a VPN and get around that, well, it's not Polymarket's fault. So it seems kind of random. It's like they don't do that to every single website. Like they don't do it to, like, you know, Pirate Bay. Well, maybe not Pirate Bay isn't one. I don't know. Every website that U.S. users aren't supposed to use doesn't get rated because I'm sure U.S. users are using it. VPNs exist. So you had another theory as to why the FBI might actually be angry that a site like this existed.
Well, whenever I hear about these types of prediction markets, I'm reminded of Jim Bell, who wrote an article called Assassination Politics, which was sort of one of these predictive markets in which people could bet on the assassination of corrupt politicians, and the bettor with the most accurate prediction on the time and place and manner of the death of that politician would get the entire prize pool.
Sounds like it's like, you know, the exact what's going on there isn't spelled out on purpose, but it almost sounds like it would be like a way to pool money together to basically hire a hitman.
That's basically it. And anybody could decide that they wanted to be the hitman and take the entire prize pool.
Wow.
By entering their guess and then going and, you know, doing it that way at that time. So they didn't like that idea at all, and they ruined this guy's life over it.
It sounds
over
like free
just
speech.
the writing of an article. He never made the market a functional thing. I don't think technology would allow it, but a small amount of code change on something like Polygon could do exactly
Or
that.
Polymarket, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Polymarket.
Definitely, there could be an attempt on a leader's life based on a betting market.
So was his life gone after, like, as in, like, did he get put in jail, or did they just do things like ruin his reputation?
Well, they imprisoned him on charges of tax evasion.
Something that can go after you anytime, no matter who you are, really, because the tax code went from 1.5 million to 16 million words in just 20 years, and whether you know it or not, you're probably breaking a tax law.
Yeah, the tax code is so confusing. They can't just send you a bill and say, here, pay us.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have you do the work for them. Then they can say, oh, you're in line with what we think you owe us.
So that was in 97 when they were released, when they arrested him on the tax thing. They released him in 2000, at which point he decided he had enough evidence that there was extensive federal government corruption associated with the case, and that he was going to file a lawsuit. He was put under heavy surveillance and arrested for harassment and stalking of federal agents. So basically, they just ruined, you know, they just railroaded right over him.
Wow.
And so he has a Wikipedia page, and the only thing that, you know, it has him listed as being known for is this essay, Assassination Politics.
Wow, it's so scary and gross how the cops and the judges and the, you know, FBI people who are also cops will all just, like, work together in lockstep to, you know, well, like you said, like, railroad someone, run right over their lives, work together like one big giant automaton. We do have a caller on the line. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I was just wanted to talk about the whole Trump thing and the illegal immigration thing and how the military might be used to just, I don't know, go through the street and take people out of their homes.
Yeah, I don't like that, but apparently it is possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hear people talking about martial law and stuff. I don't think it's going to be too popular if they try to do something like that. I don't know how far it's really going to go. I could see them showing up places like meatpacking plants and stuff, but I don't think that they really need the military for that.
Well, you think about the Colorado apartment complex where supposedly these Venezuelan gangs took over and kicked the landlord out and beat him and stuff, and that could be something that they, the government, set up in order for when Trump gets in office. Well, he's a hero because he took cops in and just killed all those Venezuelan gang members who clearly did bad things actually, and then there's, the excuse and the support behind him, quote, cleaning up the streets. Like, you'd be surprised how many people are all in support of the guy from El Salvador just going and arresting 7,000 people at once, and like tons and tons of those were people that were just, they had a finger pointed at them as being a gang member, and then they were for months in a overcrowded prison with a bunch of seriously bad people having living in a literal hell just because they had the finger pointed at them by their neighbor. They suspended like El Salvador's habeas corpus, like it's not called that there, but their habeas corpus, in order for him to arrest 7,000, I think it was, people to clean up the streets. And oh my god, even tons of good libertarians I talked to about it are like, well, you don't understand. Crime was actually really bad there, and he made things a lot better. You don't understand. And support it.
Huh. I guess they forget that, you can't create criminal acts, or you can't fix crime by locking people in cages. It just,
Yeah, I don't think that'll work forever.
Yeah.
Even if it's...
It just shows the draconian measures that government will go to keep people in cages or control populations.
Yeah, it's kind of depressing. Yeah, I kind of think that even the people in cages right now, I don't know how much rehabilitation they're getting, but, hello?
Oh, yeah. I agree, yeah.
I agree. They may not be getting much at all.
Yeah, but I guess, if you get the Supreme Court or the justices or whatever, I don't know. I mean, if you have a presidential immunity, I guess everything works out. It just seems kind of weird to me that someone could be that far above the law. I feel like it's not going to work the way it just seems so weird, right? I don't feel like people who are here, even if they're here illegally, they're still people, and they're still in the United States. They don't necessarily have to be citizens to have rights. You can still have rights just being a person in this country. It's just maybe they're kind of limited. It just doesn't seem right. I get wanting to get rid of the criminal, or have them send them back to whatever country they're from, but it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to cost a lot of money, and they're going to need people who are dedicated to do that. That's really what their plan is, but I just feel like it's not going to be popular. Like, nobody's going to enjoy seeing deportations at all. Like, it's just going to be...
I think a lot of people will, though, because there's also just the real MAGA types that truly believe, they get sold all these stories, which honestly, they could be true stories. I'm not saying they're lies, but they get these stories put out in front of them like, oh, here's a crime that an illegal did. We need those people out of here. This, that, and the other. Like, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, and killing people, etc. Not that you couldn't easily find an example of a person who got murdered the same day in a different city in the United States by a citizen, but,
right.
There are definitely people getting their heartstrings tugged on about these types of situations, and they're all about deportation.
I smell a dialectic brewing where this is a horrible situation either way, and they got people scared enough of the other that they're going to have them crying out for a digital ID program where we're all tracked and traced all the time.
Well, yeah. It looks like the caller dropped off. Thanks for the call, caller. Yeah, definitely interesting thought. Now that Donald Trump has secured the win, I'm open to what's the word? criticizing him a lot because I really wanted him to win because I want Ross Ulbricht to get freed. So I'm
but
not.
now that he won, he better do his job.
Yeah, he better.
Ross better be home by February, and I want to see those JFK papers.
Yeah, I want to see those too.
Do you think Trump's going to declassify the JFK papers?
He did some. Right? Yeah, he did, and he also declassified some, but he said he had people telling him, listen, please, not right now for the rest of it. And he, like, Joe Rogan was like, but why? And he was like, well, some things are, there are some people who are still living and it'd be disrespectful to them. Who knows what that means? LBJ's not still living. I'm pretty sure he did it.
Yeah, what that means is that Trump's one of them and he's willing to protect their secrets because...
he definitely is one of them. I mean, the world tries to make it look like he's not one of them, but he is.
I think at the very least, he's able to be convinced by them. So at the very least, you can say, even if he's not technically the same exact thing as them, blah, 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 or quote unquote is what I meant to say. If somebody tells him for the right price.
He wants to be a big shot within the club, so
yeah,
he'll do.
There's that.
Yeah.
Or for the right price, or maybe if money doesn't matter to him, power, then he'll do this or not do that. Because his excuse seems pretty weak for that when he was on Joe Rogan for why he had so many bad people in his cabinet last time. He was like, well, the thing was I was new to this and I had all these people in my ears telling me, oh, that's a good guy, and I didn't know. It just seems like, yeah, you never ran before, but you had a whole year of campaigning. It seemed like the campaigning for Hillary versus Trump went on way longer than Kamala and Joe Biden together versus Trump. This was a way shorter campaign season. But anyways.
I feel like it was a long one for me, but then again, I felt like it started back in October last year, November.
Well, they didn't do anything with Kamala at all for a full 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, she had less than 100 days, she was saying. But I mean, even Joe Biden and him weren't really campaigning. You didn't hear from Trump at all for a while, and then he was back on Twitter I feel less than a year ago.
Yeah.
I think he was in jail when he was back on Twitter. It's sometimes hard to remember. Anyways, what was I saying? So he had time to learn who would be a good person, who would be a bad person to put in his cabinet. But to be fair, maybe it's not that far off what he was saying because he fired a bunch of those people. It's he put some people in his cabinets, then when they did something he didn't like, he fired them. So it could be possible they genuinely put people in he didn't know about and then he fired them. Not that, he has the same exact opinions as us and he would have chosen to put somebody that was just as liberty friendly as we would, but he was confused. I'm not saying that, but I don't know. It's really hard to know what the truth is with these people because so much of it is theater, Donald Trump and McMahon.
And I think Trump's greatest skill is that he's a fantastic actor.
Yeah. He's a celebrity.
Oh, he's a very good actor. He's got a lot of people fooled.
He's a celebrity. He is funny. He's charismatic. Kamala.
Yeah, I think he's hilarious. Yeah.
Kamala is not any of that. I feel sometimes when I think about Kamala, it kind of creeps me out. They put somebody so obviously not going to win. It's almost like they handed it to him, and that kind of creeps me out in a way. I start to go why did they want him to win? Maybe it is the kind of stuff that caller was saying. I didn't ask his name, but they wanted to enact martial law with Trump because they have people riled up enough about the illegals.
Yeah, I kind of think it's all scripted and set up, but I heard somewhere, and I didn't verify, but I heard somebody saying that Joe Biden publicly said that he endorsed Kamala as a middle finger to the Democrats because he knew that once he had endorsed her, they wouldn't be able to run anybody else.
Yeah.
And that there was no way she was going to win.
I heard the same thing. I don't know where she heard it, but Anna Kasparian, I think is how you say her name, from the Young Turks was saying that they told Joe Biden, you're going to have to step down, we're going to run someone else. And their plan was to do a whole primary at the DNC and find who the best one was to run. But she said 30 minutes later, he was all pissed about it, and he went off and by himself without the permission of everyone else, since the Dems do everything in lockstep with each other.
Yeah.
He endorsed Kamala, and then it kind of put them in a position where they had to do her because I don't know why it puts him in a position where they had to back her, but for some reason it did.
Because it looks better if you're following the president's lead. Like, if the president of the country is endorsing somebody, then maybe you should endorse them too. It looks better that way if you're doing that as a party.
Yeah, for the optics of a unified party as opposed to a split one.
But the thing is, like, I said that to Colin, who's sometimes on the show, and he was like, oh, I think that's all BS, because of course they would say that, like, you know, they tried this thing, they ran Kamala, she failed so miserably, and now they're all, like, such crappy people. They're pointing fingers at each other like, oh, it was all Joe Biden's fault. We would have won, but Joe Biden did this. And I could see that, too. That's the thing about these people.
Yeah, I could see him pre-writing all of this as a script in order to, you know, elicit exactly these types of reactions out of average people who think it's all real.
Yeah. And that's one reason I like talking about this kind of stuff on the show, because it's like, I feel like some people, they hear some stuff and they've got this, like, what they believe down pat in their head. And me, even when I hear, like, oh, a celebrity came out and, like, announced she has a new perfume, I have, like, in my head, like, this is why she probably did this, and this is probably why they wanted her to do this. And they're all, like, conflicting, and I can think of all those things all, like, the same time, consider them all equally. Okay, a celebrity releasing a perfume is a bad example. More like a weird thing a celebrity comes out and does. Oh, Britney Spears came out and, like, shaved her head. I can hold some, like, conflicting thoughts about the thing because I know I don't know the actual truth. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel about, I think everybody should think that way about people that influence you, like entertainers and politicians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so you don't know what's going on.
Gather all the artifacts that you can verify exist and remove the contradictions. And that gets you as close as you can get to what the truth is.
And so basically what we're saying is we don't know exactly what they're planning with Donald Trump, or like what the FBI was doing by arresting this Polymarket guy.
Didn't it say they didn't arrest him?
Or sorry, they didn't arrest him, but investigating him, taking his phone.
They stole his phone, and now they're investigating him. Is that the?
Yep, they. Sounds like No Knock raided his house, because they didn't really explain the raid at all. They just said that they raided his house and that he woke up with FBI agents in his house. So I would assume that means that. Well, if
he's in Manhattan, it's probably an apartment, and they just went to the apartment manager and had him open up the door.
Well, even that, then it's like, I feel like that's the same.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's a home invasion.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep, and it did say it was in Manhattan. Well, another story, this is from Fox News, Fox 13, Tampa Bay. Florida Surgeon General says fluoride shouldn't be added to drinking water. Public health malpractice, he says. And this is one of those things, I know I was saying like the opposite on the show earlier. This is one of those things that's so obvious just from like a couple things I've heard about it. Honestly, if somebody wanted to argue with me about it, I could probably go Google and get a bunch of stuff really easily. I've seen like one documentary on it. It's like, wow, there's just so much stuff. It's just so obvious. Like something that the Nazis admitted to putting into the drinking water of the people in the concentration camps to keep them docile and dumb is probably not good for you. Do you need any other like arguments?
This is a known neurotoxin.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, one thing about it is that it doesn't occur in these high levels in nature, so why would it be, oh, human beings need this? It doesn't occur anywhere in nature, you know?
Well, that's one of the things they will trot out is that, oh, it is naturally occurring, and it is, but it's not like
in
that.
Low levels.
Right.
Yeah. Like in Keene, it doesn't bother me that there technically is some fluoride in the water because it's not added. It's just what naturally would occur in it. And still, I still filter my water. And
yeah, you don't want fluoride in your system. No amount of it.
I don't know. I don't know if like my body couldn't take care of any amount of it. Because like some people, they'll freak out about like aluminum. Aluminum is not good to be like just free in your system, but if you eat enough fish, you get the selenium and it takes it out. So I just don't know. Like if there's some in water naturally.
That if you get some into your system, you're gonna suffer from it. I'm just saying it's not useful to your body.
Yeah, I would agree. So I filter my water with carbon. I can't remember all of a sudden. Can that actually take fluoride out? I don't remember. And I don't use fluoride toothpaste, but I do drink a lot of San Pellegrino, and I learned just earlier in the day in the show that it has fluoride in it, so I guess I gotta stop drinking that. Really
what about
sucks.
Topo Chico?
Topo Chico? I don't know that one. I have to look that up too.
Okay.
That would really suck really bad. It hasn't been at Hannaford recently, so maybe they've just taken away from me anyway. I live in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
But anyways, Florida Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo announced new guidelines on Friday, advising that all cities and counties statewide stop adding fluoride to drinking water. Dr. Ladapo spoke at, maybe it's like Ladapo, but I'm just going to say Ladapo, spoke at a news conference in Winter Haven, which made headlines last week after the city announced that fluoride will no longer be added to its water supply by the end of the year. Sounds like lots of towns have done this across the country, like San Marcos, Texas, one I always heard. They didn't fluoridate the water. It's like a college town, and like in the 80s, there was actually some like good hippies that lived there. They got the government to stop adding fluoride. Keene is one of those that doesn't add it. Keene, New Hampshire, where we do the show from. But I don't know, maybe this means all of Florida will stop. That'd be really crazy. This is a quote from Dr. Ladapo. It is public health malpractice with the information that we now have to continue adding fluoride to water. How did this guy get into this position? It seems like people have been saying this, and they're absolutely right, but they get shunned and not listened to until now. It's like, sometimes it's weird. It's like, it seems like they allow something after a very long time. It's like, I don't know, maybe they're on to the next one now, and they need this guy to get some kind of credibility. So I don't know.
Who knows how these people come to power? It's just interesting that, I listened to Alex Jones for a time in my life and heard him rail against fluoride in the water. Mm-hmm. And for a time, I believed that fluoride was bad in the water. Then I read studies about dentists saying fluoride was no problem in the water. It was too low of a concentration. And so, I don't know. I can see both sides. Like you, I can see both sides of an argument. So it's hard for me to know for sure what the truth is. I would personally err on the side of caution of not having too much fluoride in my system. So, fluoride filters would be good to have.
Oh, I just Googled it. Okay, good. I use carbon, only activated carbon filter. And I don't have anything else in there because it can take out good minerals too. And I Googled it. Activated carbon filters can get fluoride out. It can capture fluoride ions, it says. And you can get those easily on Amazon, so that's one way to do it. I really think reverse osmosis is terrible for you. I know lots of people love that, but I think it's just like Germ-X. Like, you can be, I'm cleaner because I washed my hands and then I put on Germ-X and I didn't touch anybody, I didn't go outside. That's basically the equivalent of drinking water when you're doing reverse osmosis. It's like you don't have anything in your water, like even the stuff that might look creepy under a microscope, but that's actually good for you, and also minerals.
Yep.
603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever's on your mind. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya with your Week in Review, a roundup of what's been making headlines from across the globe. This week, Ukraine marked 1,000 days since Russia's invasion, with Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Friday confirming that his army used a new experimental missile inside Ukraine. This in response to Ukraine firing American and British-supplied missiles into Russian territory. Megumi Lim has been following developments from Kyiv.
After the Thursday attack, Ukraine claimed the missile was an intercontinental ballistic missile and said investigations were being carried out to identify the weapon. Authorities said the strike caused damages to businesses and critical infrastructure and that at least 2 people were injured. The Oreshnik missile, which is an intermediate-range ballistic missile, is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, but President Putin said it was not nuclear-armed in this attack. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the use of this experimental ballistic missile by Russia amounted to a clear and severe escalation in the war and called for strong worldwide condemnation.
Also this week, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister, the country's former defense minister, as well as several Hamas officials. They're accused of crimes against humanity over the October 7th attack on Israel and the consequent war in Gaza, as William Denzelo reports.
In a unanimous decision, the ICC's 3-judge panel said that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Chief Yoav Gallant knowingly and intentionally deprived civilians in Gaza of objects indispensable to their survival. The chamber adds that they bear criminal responsibility for the war crime of starvation as a method of warfare. Israel has long railed against the court, and its President Isaac Herzog calls the ruling a dark day for justice and turns universal justice into a universal laughingstock. The ICC's decision makes Netanyahu an internationally wanted suspect, but both Israel and its main ally the US are not among the more than 120 nations that are party to the Rome Statute.
Donald Trump won't be sentenced next week in his hush money case. The US president-elect was due to face his punishment in the coming days after being convicted of 34 felony charges back in May. But Judge Juan Merchan, who's overseeing the case, has now postponed that date indefinitely. Here's Sally Patterson.
Donald Trump's team is trying to throw out this hush money case completely. His lawyers argue the fact that he's headed back into the White House means his criminal conviction should be overturned. They also say a Supreme Court immunity ruling from earlier this year means certain evidence used in the trial should never have been heard. The prosecution argues the conviction still stands, but concedes sentencing could be delayed until after Trump serves his second term in office. Judge Juan Merchan has now paused all proceedings until he hears from both parties. That's due on the 9th of December.
Meanwhile, Trump's nominating his longtime ally Pamela Bondi as the nation's Attorney General. That pick coming after his first choice to lead the Justice Department, Matt Gaetz, withdrew his name from consideration amid multiple controversies. Ira Spitzer brings us the details.
Pamela Bondi served as Florida's Attorney General from 2011 to 2019. She's long been associated with the president-elect, serving as one of his lawyers during his first impeachment trial, and also showed up in court to support him during his hush money trial in New York earlier this year. In a social media post, Trump wrote Pam will refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again. Her nomination came just 6 hours after Trump's first pick, Matt Gaetz, withdrew his name from consideration as his confirmation appeared unlikely due to allegations of sexual misconduct.
And a sixth foreign tourist died of suspected methanol poisoning in Laos. Australian Holly Bowles and her friend Bianca Jones drank tainted alcohol in a backpacker town. A British woman, an American and 2 Danes also died. Laura Westbrook reports.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that 19-year-old Bianca Jones had died after being evacuated from Laos for treatment in a Thai hospital. This is every parent's worst fear and a nightmare, he said. The victims are believed to have consumed drinks tainted with methanol. This is sometimes added to mixed drinks at disreputable bars as a cheaper alternative to ethanol, but it can cause severe poisoning and death.
And that is your Week in Review. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. I'm Benji Hire in Washington.
This is William Chambers. Now a retired insurance salesman, Chambers is just one of over 95% of grandfathers who, according to a new report from the Center of Business Intelligence, secured their first and only job by walking right up to the owner of a business and asking for a position right then and there.
I slammed my fist on the desk and said, "I'm your man." He stood right up, he shook my hand, and he said, "You come in first thing Monday morning."
According to the report, nearly 36% of grandfathers claim that they found employment by entering a local business with nothing but a nickel in their pockets and a shirt on their backs. 24% saw a fine-looking marquee for a business and said, "Someday my name's going to be on that sign." And 40% of grandfathers said they snuck into the CEO's office and said, "Mr. McKinley, sir, I'm your guy."
It just took gumption. You didn't need some fancy internship. Looking the boss dead in the eye and showing him you were a man. That was your internship.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And I'd like to thank Jessica for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Jessica went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks again to Jessica and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. Thank you so much, Jessica, and everyone who is an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. And with you on the show tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Stu.
And Riley.
And in the last segment, we had just started talking about this. Surgeon General in Florida says fluoride shouldn't be added to drinking water and that it's a public health malpractice, which is just... This is stuff people have been saying. People put together so much information and talk about how it should be considered malpractice. Like, people are being kind of like fed something that is affecting their body without their permission and without real, what's the word? Like, they aren't being given real information about it before making the decision. Informed consent, there we go. So I could see it being medical malpractice, and people have been saying this, but all of a sudden the Surgeon General in Florida, so Noah actually has like some power in that regard, is saying exactly what people have been saying. But we do have a caller on the line. We have Jet. Jet, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I don't know. What have you been talking about?
Well, we've been talking about the predictive market.
Lots of stuff, Jet. Lots of stuff. Haven't you been listening?
Well, I did for a while, and then I got a phone call
the part that I heard, I wanted to respond to, which was you talked about the law of attraction type of thing, how there's positive thinking and there's motivational thinking and there's this thing, new age and new thought and how we attract certain things. And I believe that to a certain extent, but I also include the element of evil and demonic forces and other spiritual forces that can interfere with that.
I agree.
And
we didn't really get a chance to get deep into it since it was brought up right at the end of a segment. And I just want to say I do agree, because it's like, yeah, people can make this point all they want. Like, Bonnie, you choose everything in your life. What's going on in your life? Well, just think about how you accidentally might have allowed it with your mindset. And I do think that is true to an extent, but that doesn't mean I can't be a victim of anyone else. Like,
Sure.
There is no way to bend reality and look at the facts and make crap up to make it my fault that the FBI came in my house and stole my husband.
Plus, I think it's victim blaming to do that too.
I agree.
Yeah, it absolutely is. How are you going to try to tell me that a 4-year-old child chose for themselves to be abused by their parents or something?
That and people. So that's a big argument against people who are kind of, I think, looking at law of attraction the wrong way, because like it gets a bad rap in that people think that it literally means like you create absolutely everything. I think it is way more about you have influence, but the people who created The Secret were being way too simplistic, and people like Thomas Troward, all the New Thought people that were like way before The Secret were not so simplistic and talked about a bunch of variables. But why don't you go ahead and tell us what you're going to say about evil influences and maybe even demons? I'm open to that idea too, Jed.
Well, what I like to ask people is if they believe in this, they fully believe in the law of attraction thing. I tend to say, well, then Jesus got everything he deserved, right? So, since they want to talk about it in the Christian sense.
Yeah, I don't know that many Christians that like it. My mom hates that kind of stuff. She thinks it's evil altogether, which I just disagree with. But I don't think a lot of Christians like law of attraction at all.
Oh, it's huge. I think what happened to me is the woman I was married to got a hold of that book, The Secret, and just started believing that everything, was there for her, and it was all about her, and it was just craziness. And I had little to no influence, and I attribute that to the forces of evil, that there are these demonic forces out there and typically they don't work as much on you depending upon the strength of your spirituality. But if you are strong in the spirit, they will use other people to affect your life. I think that's what you were referring to before also. The idea
other people have their own free will to act even if it's against you and you can't fight back for whatever reason. The other thing I would say is like I think a really good spiritual teacher would be making sure to tell people that you have influence over your life, but you have responsibility as well to make the world better. And whether if that's because you're going to reincarnate and be back here, so you better create the world you want to live in 1,000 years, or if it's just because it's just the right thing to do, because it all comes down to when you're making the right choices, you're making the world better. People all making better choices together makes the world better, and there is
absolutely, and it makes for future generations to be better too.
Yep, and there is this group intention and group decision making can either open the world up to slavery or freedom.
Well, the Bible does talk about how it speaks about if you wonder how let's say you could be doing all this good in your life, but still there are those people who seem to be doing evil, but yet rise up in fame and fortune. And that in my life, I've worked pretty hard at bringing goodwill to other people, but I got to tell you, I've been lied to, cheated on, and stolen from a lot. And it's the only thing I can attribute that to is that there are evil forces, demonic forces working in this spiritual realm.
This goes kind of into another conversation we're having about the nature of what God is, and I was saying that I think this human existence may be the creation of some lesser God who may, in fact, be quite demonic and sadistic. And
I like to think about.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
There's a gentleman from the UK named Mark Devlin who's been delving into these ideas on his podcast, and about the nature of God and whether or not it's a benevolent God or a rather evil God that is hell bent on destruction and seeing humans suffer. Because it does seem that, like you were saying, the more you strive to do good works in this world, the more you get suffering in return.
You could also chalk that up to just the fact that there could be just the fact that a bunch of people who have actually evil intent are being more organized and more focusing on action in the world. There could be a group of people and they have it all together. They're not fighting amongst each other like libertarians. They help each other out.
They're reaping the reward because they're acting more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is a reason that the adage was created, no good deed shall go unpunished. But talking about the God thing and creation, I kind of joke once in a while that you take a look around you at the various animals and how weird some of these things are. And you wonder somehow if that the earth has become, let's say, a repository for all the mistakes of the universe. It's just funny.
I don't know. I think it's easy to just focus on all kinds of negative, like there are dung beetles. Look how creepy they look up close. And then there are also dogs. Just today I was thinking for Coconut's whole entire life, he's just never been sick. Like there was a time where maybe I shouldn't say it on the air because it's embarrassing. He basically was protesting me being away and being babysat by my sister by not eating, and that gave him not very good texture of feces, and that caused an organ that dogs have around their exit to burst. But that's the only time he's ever been sick, quote unquote sick. But that was like, he just did that out of protesting me being gone. He's never just gotten sick. I feel like there's a reason I was saying that. Yeah, there's a lot of good in the world. It's basically all I'm trying to say. Like,
oh yeah, there's beauty everywhere you want to look.
You can focus on evil your whole life, or you can focus on good your whole life.
Yeah.
Well, that is what one of the books of the Bible is, that that we have to just look around us to know that there is a God, however you might define that.
Yeah.
Just to see
there is that Bible verse. There's also the one that tells you not to focus on evil. I forget how it says it. It's in the Old Testament. It's like a lot of people use it whenever they're like, listen, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm going to tell you about this horrible stuff. And then you're like, whoa, by the end of it. And then they, if they're Christian, they'll often quote that Bible verse. It's like, okay, but
you're talking about there's life and death in the power of the tongue?
No, it's more about what you pay your attention to, what not just looking at and every day absorbing, oh, look what the evil things people are doing. I forget exactly how they put it though.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't think of that. Yeah, it's, if you've ever read the book of Ecclesiastes, and you don't have a good, solid sense of self, so to speak, you could get pretty depressed about the whole idea, because it talks about how this life and the striving and the work and the toil we go is all for just vanity. It's meaningless. There's no reason. It just goes on and on and on. Talks about how meaningless life is until it gets to the very end, and it says, except that to love God and obey His commandments, that is the sole duty of man. It's life is a mystery. There's no question about that.
It definitely is. It's a fun mystery to ponder, Gives us all something to think about.
Yeah, so you guys have a good evening and appreciate it.
Thanks for the
Thanks,
call.
Jet.
Have a good night. Thanks for the call. We have another caller on the line. We have Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yes, I just want to say that there's a guy named Mr. Trevisani that is with a United Soccer team out of New Mexico, Albuquerque. He owns it, and it was mentioned that he made his money working for the Thornburg Company, and that company collapsed, and after they filed bankruptcy, and then they came back. But I've heard from people that they ripped people off, like they did the inside trader, and I think Trevisani was probably got some of that cut. But the thing is that he has bad karma because everybody fights him when he wants to build a soccer stadium. They treat him like he's a scam, and isn't that how it is usually? These private owners of sports stadiums, they take the taxpayer dollars and have them build everything, and then it helps them. They get something out of it, but it costs everybody's money.
That's right.
And
then usually they're tax exempt after that, so they don't end up paying back into the pool that they just took from.
Yeah, but it kind of sounds like it because the person I know, he invested $7,000 because he heard some bogus some article that said somebody some group invested $1 billion through that company. It's going to go up. And he got conned in and put money in, and it just bottomed out and went bankrupt. And then he lost his money. It's kind of like inside traders. And I'm sure Trevisani got some of that cut. And I dug up on the website about him. It just says that he works there. But if he worked there, isn't he part of the inside trader? He knew that when it was going to collapse, and he pulled out all their money before everybody else lost their money.
Inside trading, yeah. Is this guy in trouble? Is he in trouble? Is he getting arrested or anything like that?
No, but the thing is that he tried to build a soccer stadium. Everybody fights him he can't build it here. He can't build it over there. Nobody wants him there to build it because it's like they're tired of our taxes going into it, and once he builds it, everybody has to keep paying for the upgrade. And I think that they've done this before, baseball stadiums and soccer stadiums, and everybody they done this to across the country where they know that they're going to just get soaked, So a lot of people, they fight it because it's the taxpayer, they build everything on sidewalk, parking lot, light fixtures, everything, and then it benefits the private owner of that company that owns that baseball stadium or whoever.
Why did they allow that? Just because, the idea is they'll get money from tourism to it or something?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what they said. It'll create jobs. That's what the whole pump was. It'll create jobs, and it'll bring industry, people out to spend money, but they want $100 million or something ridiculous, and everybody's like, you know what? People need houses to stay in. We don't have low income housing. What are you doing? And then he moved to the other spot. But I think it's a bad karma. Seems like he never got caught like Martha Stewart got caught for inside trader, that just because you don't get it caught, it's like somebody announced it. Somebody on the KKLB said that he made his money on Thornburg. So they did the research. It's just that he worked for the Thornburg.
Do you think?
But obviously, okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Do you think this is possibly like people aren't as interested in sports as they used to be? Because, like, I don't know, used to just be. It seemed like anybody could just get a sports stadium built anywhere.
Well, the thing is, I've noticed there's soccer fields all over the place. UNM is a football and a soccer field. I see the goalie post. There's people could play soccer at the Bullhead thing. So they want to build a super fancy soccer stadium.
Soccer
and they want
is
to make it
in America. Like I've never even heard of like a huge soccer stadium in America because we don't have like national soccer teams. You know,
they built one in Salt Lake.
Real Salt Lake, yeah.
Yeah, Rio Tinto Stadium.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Rio Tinto is one of these gigantic international conglomerates that buys up all the mineral rights all over the world and does evil
Makes
things.
sense
With
in Utah.
But you know what? I told my friend, I said, don't you know that I went to the Communist Party? I learned that we live in a corporate media. The whole Fox News, everything is to benefit and favor the corporation. So I say, why do you believe these corporate media? They're going to say they write articles. See, another friend of mine, this lady read the article, said that this one company is going to go up, and she fell for it. She believed the article. She invested $50,000 and it tanked, and she lost it all. So, and then I hear that Thornburg did the same thing with this person. And I said, what? And then I was taught this is all just corporate media. It's to pump up the corporations. It's all to manipulate the big capitalists.
I believe that.
And the same thing is that, so the Trump got one about, like, he said he got the election was a border crisis. But what really happened? He's like a billionaire capitalist. The whole agenda was to pump up the capitalists. You know, as soon as he got in, he said, well, the wealthy, top 1%, they're going to get a tax break. That's what his real agenda was.
Well, I just saw Donald Trump Jr. just said that they're going to get rid of the tax code and make a flat tax, which would mean everybody has the same tax rate. But I don't know about that. I have no clue if it's true. That's what Donald Trump Jr. said. I'm sure he's just saying all that just to, it's just a hot air.
Well,
we know
it's like Biden. He's full of hot air.
Another thing I have to say about this, Sarah, is that we do agree on something, me and you, that the media often writes articles just to pump up certain companies and stuff. The way I notice it the most is actually with pop stars. It's like people don't really think about it, but pop stars are businesses within themselves. Like, if somebody sucks, but they put a lot of money into them, all they have to do is write a bunch of articles saying, young girls like Taylor Swift.
That's
you
right.
like her. You
Most
like
of the
her.
very popular celebrities aren't popular because people like them. They're popular because people were told to like them.
Yep, they were told people like them.
And people want to be on the bandwagon, so they go like Taylor Swift.
That's literally 100% true. Like, people want to be feeling like they're in a part of this huge thing happening right now, which is everybody likes Taylor Swift. And I don't understand that at all. I don't mind if other people don't like my music. And for a while, pop stopped being as popular, and it didn't change my taste in music. Right now, it's getting right back into being really, really big again, even with Taylor Swift making crap pop music and being at the top. But anyways, so I agree with Sarah that they'll write articles literally to pump up businesses. Like, I don't pay attention to something like, oh, the sports stadium businesses, but would it be surprising if somebody didn't want that guy to be the one who builds a sports stadium? They write all this bad stuff about him. He doesn't get the deal, and then this next guy comes in and wants to build the same sports stadium in the same place, and the articles start writing, this guy is really great, and here's some puppies he petted and some babies he fed, and then that guy gets
They're
the deal.
supposed to hug the babies or kiss them. I don't think they're supposed to feed them.
Well, whatever. he donated to African babies that were starving.
There you go.
Yeah, after Biden was just chew on their legs.
Ew. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160. Do you believe in demons like we're talking about with Jet? Call in and let us know. It's Free Talk Live.
First things first, you should offer, not ask, to renegotiate. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. For instant savings, make a list. Video and music streaming services, insurance premiums, your cable bill, your cell phone plan, that gym membership you stopped using by February, all those recurring costs that hit your credit card like clockwork every month. And about that card, tell them you want a lower rate. Many who do get one. And if you don't, because credit cards are stealing each other's customers, sign up for a new one with an introductory 0% balance transfer offer so you at least stop the clock on what you already owe. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Hire with your Week in Review, a roundup of what's been making headlines from across the globe. This week, Ukraine marked 1,000 days since Russia's invasion, with Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Friday confirming that his army used a new experimental missile inside Ukraine. This in response to Ukraine firing American and British-supplied missiles into Russian territory. Megumi Lim's been following developments from Kyiv.
After the Thursday attack, Ukraine claimed the missile was an intercontinental ballistic missile and said investigations were being carried out to identify the weapon. The Oreshnik missile, which is an intermediate-range ballistic missile, is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, but President Putin said it was not nuclear-armed in this attack. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the use of this experimental ballistic missile by Russia amounted to a clear and severe escalation in the war and called for strong worldwide condemnation.
Also this week, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister, the country's former defense minister, as well as several Hamas officials. They're accused of crimes against humanity over the October 7th attack on Israel and the consequent war in Gaza, as William Denzelo reports.
In a unanimous decision, the ICC's three-judge panel said that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Chief Yoav Gallant knowingly and intentionally deprived civilians in Gaza of objects indispensable to their survival. Israel has long railed against the court, and its President Isaac Herzog calls the ruling a dark day for justice. The ICC's decision makes Netanyahu an internationally wanted suspect, but both Israel and its main ally, the US, are not among the more than 120 nations that are party to the Rome Statute.
Donald Trump won't be sentenced next week in his hush money case. The US president-elect was due to face his punishment in the coming days after being convicted of 34 felony charges back in May. But Judge Juan Merchan, who's overseeing the case, has now postponed that date indefinitely. Here's Sally Patterson.
Donald Trump's team is trying to throw out this hush money case completely. His lawyers argue the fact that he's headed back into the White House means his criminal conviction should be overturned. They also say a Supreme Court immunity ruling from earlier this year means certain evidence used in the trial should never have been heard. The prosecution argues the conviction still stands, but concedes sentencing could be delayed until after Trump serves his second term in office. Judge Juan Merchan has now paused all proceedings until he hears from both parties.
And that is your Week in Review. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. I'm Benji Hire in Washington.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160. I keep messing that up. I keep getting 603-283, but not 6160 tonight. But yeah, that is the number you can call to get in on the conversation with us, 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny Liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Stu.
And Riley.
And in the break, I was telling the guys that we were about to talk about in another article from Fox News about the Texas AG is suing Dallas for decriminalizing marijuana. I hadn't even heard that Dallas decriminalized marijuana, but
I hadn't either, and it was exciting to me that they did because I happen to like cannabis. It's one of my favorites. But at the same time, it's surprising that the Attorney General is saying this is not okay. I mean,
I'm not surprised. I think it makes sense because not that it's right, but it seems like something a Texas Attorney General would totally do.
Yeah, they definitely would.
They hate drugs.
But it surprises me because the Republicans are all about freedom, and if a city decides, hey, we don't want to keep a plant a criminal.
Well, Texas is number 49 in social freedom.
Oh,
that's one thing.
The Republicans are not all about freedom.
Yeah, that's one thing that Texas is horrible about. I do want to tell the callers that I'm going to get to the calls. I just wanted to kind of tease that, but
yeah,
I was really shocked that happened at all anywhere in Texas. And honestly, Dallas wouldn't be the first city I would think of. I would have thought Austin would have done it first, but
yeah, Austin would definitely seem the likely candidate for that.
In Austin, you can walk down the street naked, so why not smoke weed? Everyone does it anyway, but
yeah, I'm just wondering, Dallas seems to me like a very southern conservative place. I'm wondering why they decriminalized cannabis.
Right, that's the thing. They feel to me more like a Missouri country or a city. They feel to me like Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, something like that. But Tennessee is just cool. They have their own little coolness, and I don't like Dallas. It just doesn't feel like Texas to me. It does not feel like San Antonio. But anyways, we have callers on the line. So Turd Ferguson in Pennsylvania, what's on your mind, Turd?
Yo, what's up? Bum 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 ba dum da dum.
Wait, what song is that?
You know what song that is? Come on.
Oh, 360. It really, really didn't sound like it for a second. I was like, I know the part, but the other part I didn't, so it really threw me off. Kind of sounded like a
I think
Muppets
the other
version.
part is 360. I think it's actually 365. Yeah,
No,
but
that one's 360 because it's
360. 365 is just 360 is just 365 is just 360 with a slightly different beat.
This is all about if you guys don't know, Charlie XCX songs.
Okay.
No, I
was just listening to that song.
I don't listen to Charlie XCX, so I can't really comment.
Well, you guys aren't gay or really into teen pop like Turd. If you listen to Charlie XCX, you're either gay, a girl, or really into teen pop, which is what Turd calls it on me.
Or you're really, really straight.
I guess so. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's the most likely.
I was a Charlie
scenario.
XCX fan since before anyone knew who she was. Since before she was on Fancy, I listened to Charlie XCX in 2011 when the only songs I knew by her were What I Like and Super Love, and I would listen to that on a laptop because I didn't have an actual iPhone or anything like that, or Bluetooth speaker or anything while I was taking showers and stuff. And no one knew who Charlie XCX was for decades, and now she's huge.
You're pretty bass. I'm not gonna lie.
I am
usually
musically, yes. Well, is there anything else you had to call in about Turd? I don't think the other guys wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, that's because they're lame. But I've actually been
That's your opinion, of course.
It's my fact, but
it's your opinion.
It's Turd's truth. He's speaking his truth right now.
Really?
I'm just kidding. I hate that term.
I think it's hilarious, but I was just gonna say, and you know, I'm not going crazy. But I have to start walking the walk because I call in this show a lot and talk about men and mission and purpose and living a life of meaning, and how if men, you know, really, really want to be as sexy as they possibly can be to women, they need to have a mission and they need to have purpose, because that's basically, because just briefly on a side note, mission and purpose is basically the equivalent to being hot for a girl to a man. You know what I mean? So I have to start walking the walk. So I started, believe it or not, severing my ties with all my passive income digital marketing clients over the last week. And because I need to start focusing on what I was put on this earth to do.
Your music studio?
Yeah, basically. And being successful in the music business. And so this is like a huge step for me. I'm not gonna lie, after I've done all this the past couple weeks, I'm very scared because all these contracts now run out on December 31. So I have to really get in gear. And I mean, if this doesn't work and I do just go so broke that I start to like really freak out, I mean, I could probably just start another business and I'd probably be very good at it. But then sort of immediately after I kind of started washing my hands of this stuff, I happened to see online in this music industry sort of job forum that I check often and just kind of look at and glance at, that there's a opening at a huge global social media company that you all have heard of, that basically this job pays well into the six figures, and they meet with up-and-coming artists every single week and talk to them and consult with them about how they can expand their reach using this particular social media platform. And I'm thinking about this. I'm like, okay, well, this would be amazing for a number of reasons. First of all the connections I would make in the music industry, obviously, this would be huge. But then I'm thinking like, well, what about the business and the marketing side of this record label that I'm starting? What if I could really learn how to manipulate one of these social media algorithms so well that I could just like, I could just start
Turn
any
anyone
account
into a star, basically.
Yeah, using the algorithm of this social media company. So then I'm like, wow, this job might pay me, you know, only well into the six figures, but the information that I could learn just doing this for a couple years is worth 9 or 10 figures. Okay. So I'm thinking about this and I'm weighing the options. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll go ahead and get a resume together, which it just makes me kind of sick even saying that word. I haven't even thought about that in a long time. But I've actually went ahead and used an AI to help me assemble a resume and a cover letter. And the downside is I would have to move to Los Angeles for probably a couple years, and which would suck. But I'd make plenty of money. I'd be able to come home on the weekends, or at least, you know, once a month, and you know, stay in my house here, work on you know, finish my studio and all that good stuff. And then I'm like, well, would it really be that bad if I had to live in Los Angeles? I mean, I would be near Hollywood. Hollywood and LA are, of course, the homeland of the perfect boob job.
I'm sure that there are better gyms there.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking about. I was like, well, how hot are the gym girls in LA? I bet they are smoking.
They might just be. You might be able to pick yourself up a gym girl.
If you're into synthetic.
Might be able to pick myself up a pop star at the gym.
There you go.
Yeah, the one time I went to California was only Sacramento, and even then I was like, wow, everyone is beautiful here. But I was also like a young high schooler, and now I don't like plastic surgery as much.
Well, I think that young high school Bonnie was very based, and I'm going to say that the people in California are beautiful, and I'm extremely handsome, so that'll just increase my shots even better.
Well,
And
I do think the universe likes when you make a decision. So you made this decision to just cut your ties from your old business. So I feel like good things will come your way.
Yeah, this is a hard choice for me to make. And I don't know. And, this is all on a whim. And, of course, I haven't even gotten this job yet. This is all very risky. But I don't know. I just have a good feeling about this. And, I just kind of wanted to call in and get that off my chest because I haven't really even told anyone about it yet.
Well,
but I appreciate you guys taking my call.
Congrats on quitting your business, your other old business. I think it's a
huge step.
It is. It's a big step. If that's something, if you're willing to put in the effort to something new, then that's great. And congratulations. Another caller on the line we have is Alu. Alu from Virginia. Is that where you are, Alu?
Yeah, how's it going?
What's on your mind?
Hey, a few quick things. You and a few others, I think, the last few months have mentioned Jerry of your peers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you, Bonnie, a bunch of others have mentioned that it's not right that people are judged by a jury, not of their peers, because the Constitution says they should be their peers, meaning they should be somewhat like them, and in Ian's case, they should be, pro-liberty, libertarian, crypto enthusiasts. I think as far as the Constitution, if you're going to be a stickler for that, all it says is that they should be from the same district, like federal district that they're in, which for the federal district court purposes it includes the whole state of New Hampshire. So I think all it says.
Well, I do gotta say, it sounds, your phone quality is a little bad. Like you might be like on speaker or something. It's like cutting off a few syllables. But I got what you said. You said basically that even if you're just going off just what the Constitution says, the only thing they just define like a jury of your peers as is that they're from the same federal district as you?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Sorry about the bad quality.
It's okay. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I generally think juries are horrific for a lot of reasons and worse than most alternatives. And I think in my book, Presumed Guilty, I argue in favor of, if we're going to have a system like that, there should be a lot of reforms, but the big one there is a panel of like 3 judges or even like professional jurors who are somewhat informed of the law. I think would be a lot better than 12 random people who are too dumb to get out of jury duty.
I agree.
I'm not a big fan of juries, but also I'm not a big fan of judges because they work for the government. So
I agree, though.
Which I know you're, yeah.
They sometimes, at least they have a little bit more of an incentive sometimes to get it right. Like they don't want to get overturned. A jury, they're just going home and like they were protected even and never going to face any consequences for anything they do.
Yeah, I mean the whole system is super messed up for a ton of reasons. Judges don't really mind being overturned. Judges are overturned a ton. That's not quite enough punishment overturning on appeal if you have the time and money, as you know, like to wait years and hundreds of thousands or millions for an appeal, which most people probably don't. So I don't think judges are afraid of that.
I think they have to be because
totally immune.
The only reason I think that they have to be at least a little afraid of that is there's just no other reason why the judge in Ian's case would throw out his money laundering charge. It's like, yeah, it was so obvious that it wasn't right, but also the jury already said it. He could have just washed his hands of it, But it's so obviously bad. I think that I also have said before, I think a lot of the stuff that the jury did or the judge did where he was trying to tell us that he was being fair, us in the audience, like, hey, I'm trying my best to be fair. Here's what I did to be fair today. Mm-hmm. I think he was afraid. There's this big group of people called Free Staters, and if they get mad at me, I'm going to have a mob at my door because they're all psychopaths. That's how they think. They think violence.
Yeah, they were expecting.
Yeah, it could be.
They had Homeland Security there at all those events.
Well, they're expecting violence because it's what they know. They know that when anger happens, people get violent. But, we're a different group of people. At least we try to be. Free Staters should be aligned with peaceful motives. Yeah, we can be angry, and we'll let you know.
But that motivation is still technically different than what Bonnie just just said, which is they're afraid of being turned over on appeal. I wish it were the case where they would be embarrassed or something if an appellate court struck them down and said that they're, totally misapplied the law and they're insane and inappropriate. But
yeah, but I just mentioned that as another reason. What is the other reason then?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he was
the other two
that.
possibilities are he was afraid of pushback from fixators, it's possible, or he genuinely wanted to sincerely do the right thing as far as the law and or.
But if that was the case, why'd he put a man in prison for 8 years for all the other crap? And then if any of these things are true, it still points me to judges are better than juries, because if the answer was, well, he just genuinely wanted to do the right thing, it's 10 times better than the jury, the 12 people that all saw that this IRS agent tried to entrap Ian on the most stretch of stretches in the universe, and they were like, yeah, guilty of money laundering. That just blows my mind. So those listeners that don't know.
Yeah, that case was mind-blowing. And my only other big thing to say was, I think Richie Rich was talking about law school, and Gigi or someone else said he should go to law school because he would be a decent lawyer, which I agree, he might be a decent lawyer. He said he doesn't quite have the money. Obviously, nobody has $500,000 on them in their pocket in cash. But I would just encourage him to look into scholarships and stuff, because my basic understanding is majority of law students, I think, maybe half, maybe more or less, but the majority, I think, right now are not paying full tuition, and they're getting scholarships to the tune of 50, 80, 90, 100% tuition. So there's a lot of law schools where 99% of students get full or half or 3/4 scholarship, or the other option is taking out loans and then you pay them back when you're a lawyer making really good money. So I would encourage him to, assuming he's not too old, I think he's below 40, so it's definitely, I think, worth considering. So I would tell Richie to look into it.
Nice.
When you say
or just call me.
When you say decent lawyer, I'd just like to push back and say there's no such thing. They're all slime bags, and they've all sworn an oath.
Morally scum. I'd probably agree.
They've all sworn an oath to the British Accreditation Regency, and are therefore kind of traitorous by, at least in the spirit of it.
I don't know any 100% perfect lawyers, but I think that free staters who are doing it to be renegades are on the path to be really good ones that I know. Alu's going to law school. Alu's going to law school, and then Zephin, who's been on the show, is going to law school. I don't see any reason that they could be bad. And I like that term renegade because I completely agree that all cops are bastards. But then Ian was like, well, what about David Hathaway? And I was like, well, it's different, Ian. And it's different because he literally joined to be a renegade. Most cops didn't join, they joined because of the premise, and this person joined knowing the premise to mess stuff up. And there are also politicians that have done that.
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of times they go in with the right idea and then get corrupted. So that could happen with a lawyer too.
Yeah, I think, Bonnie, have you heard my analogy? I told a bunch of people about it, about Horcruxes from Harry Potter. I don't know if the whole crew there is familiar with Harry Potter.
I'm not who? Horcruxes? I'm sorry, I don't know.
She doesn't know anything about Horcruxes, but for the listeners who may not know, a Horcrux was used by Voldemort, the evil character in Harry Potter, to conceal part of his soul. So he broke his soul into 7 pieces. And so he was concealing part of his soul in each of these little objects.
Nice.
Well, okay, yeah, awesome. And then the reason I brought it up is that just to hold on to them, because Harry and his friends in the final book, 7 or 6, the last few books, they held on to them until they could destroy them, because you got to destroy all 7 pieces of his soul before you can kill Voldemort, the Dark Lord. Just holding on to it, the Horcrux, it's a powerful thing, and just having it in your possession makes you kind of depressed and dark and depraved and horrible and sucks out your soul and makes you everything darker. Just holding on to it, but it was a sacrifice Harry and his friends make, and ultimately they realize they're getting depressed and irritable, and they're being crappy friends to each other and turning on each other, and they devise a plan where they rotate holding it one day each or something, or a week each, because it makes you darker. So it's a sacrifice. I would say lawyers, police officers, lawyers, politicians, Ron Paul, whatever, other lawyers, guys from IJ, Free Staters lawyers, FME, they understand that holding on to Horcrux might technically be a sacrifice in some sense, and it might actually get their integrity and their soul a bit darker, and they might take some slings and arrows and cuts and scars, but they're doing it definitely for the greater good. does destroying the evil Dark Lord Voldemort is for the greater good, and that might involve sacrifice. I think people like Zeph and me are smart enough to understand that. So if in 30 years we're talking on the Free Talk Live and you say, "Oh, you're not 100% principled. You're barely better than Ron Paul and Rand Paul," and I say, "You know what? I'm not 100% principled, but I've moved the needle a whole lot for civil rights, constitutional rights, and I've done more to bring due process and civil rights back to humanity than anyone in the world." So I think that's worth something being decent at least. So that's why I mentioned Horcruxes as an example.
Nice. That's an interesting analogy, and I definitely think there are some people that might think they can handle it, and then they get into it and they can't handle it. So I love that meme that the listeners made forever ago, where it's like Mark is Schmeagol, and he has the ring, and Ian is Frodo, and Ian's like, "Quick, Mark, we must throw the ring into the whatever Mordor, the volcano," and Mark is like, "Wait, oh no, it's a golden gun," because the gun in the room of the government. And Mark is like, "Wait, but now that I have the gun, I can just," and it's like ... and he is turning into Schmeagol because Mark is a minarchist. I don't know for sure if I believe that about Mark. It's just funny. But I definitely think that there are some people, they might think they're going to get in and be a renegade politician, for example, and then they've got hold of the Ring of Power or the Horcrux or
that's
the Golden Gun.
That's a great point. And the thing I would say about that is I'm a big fan of people going to law school, not right out of college at 22 years old or whatever. Mm-hmm. I would say get some experience in life for 1 to 5 years. I've been working in medicine for 12, 13, 14 years. So I'm 12, 13 years out of high school. So I've gotten enough experience, and my principles are now solidified. They're not, wet cement anymore. My principles are pretty set in stone with the foundation of decades of, pro-liberty principles. So I'm just less likely, I would say, people like me, less likely to be affected by law school, because I've heard that law school is indoctrinating and stuff. So I think that's why, Zeph also being around, 10 years post-college, I think a better chance of maintaining their principles through law school.
Nice. That's a really good point. Like, why do we the society and government try to push young people to go into their jobs at 18, especially something like being a lawyer, where you should have your own point of view and philosophy, I think, of the way that you're looking at the laws, because
it's for the same reason they want to get kids into government schools younger and younger. They want them from birth now if they can get them.
Yep.
They know that
the government,
the earlier that they can get the indoctrination into your brain, the better it's going to stick there.
Yep.
The government has essentially become a very dangerous religion, and it's, some religionists would say, oh, they're trying to replace religion. No, they're trying to be, well, yes, they are, but they're trying to be the religion that you turn to. And so they put in power people like Donald Trump who make Christianity, or who pretend to be Christians so that Christians can support the government.
I was just thinking the other day how Elon Musk's trans kid said to him, you're doing this weird Christian cosplay when you've never been to a church in your life. She said that in public, and I was thinking just that's kind of weird to think of. I believe it, that they all pretend to be whatever the religion in vogue of the people is, so that way they can get power that way. But they're also just a religion themselves. You sit in the pews to watch their church meetings, aka
court.
The judge court.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just watched a video an hour ago of a lawyer who says he's been a lawyer for 20, 30 years, and he's represented billionaire hedge fund people. His name is Leibowitz, I guess, and he made 2 long videos, 20, 30 minutes each, called Dear Law Students. I'll send it to you later. Just saying the whole thing is a cult. You're going to be lied to in law school before, during, and after, and it's all a cult, and the courts are like a religious ceremony, and the preacher is the judge. It sounded like us. It was amazing.
Wow, that's really cool. You should send that to me. And thank you for the call, Alu. It's been Free Talk Live. You can go to freetalklive.com for more. Thank you for listening. Lots of interesting conversations tonight about demons and God and the universe and aliens, and the government is a cult. It's been Free Talk Live. Thanks for listening. freetalklive.com. Peace.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get